Hello and welcome back to my channel, Deku Fanfic. Today, we're kicking off the third part of our series, What If Deku Reincarnates as Chef? The author of this story is JJoySeeker 101 from fanfiction.net. Now, let's dive into the fanfic. Chapter 7, Izuku's Wrath. Inoshiki Assault Arc Part 1. Number 4 Yavin Street, Green Cloud Restaurant. It was just another morning for Izuku. He woke up at dawn, trained hard his cooking skills following the system's training regimen, sent a good morning message to Momo and then prepared the spicy beef noodles for Blackie before giving a rapid cleanup to the restaurant before opening for business, starting with his breakfast service, soon filling the main room in the amazing scent of croissants, cupcakes and freshly ground coffee. And the latter was a joy for a coffee junkie like Izuku. He had at his beck and call over 100 different kinds of coffee to use, something that made him very happy. Another thing that made him happy was not only the jewel meat already becoming a cult classic of Yavin Street with meat experts clamoring to have more, Izuku actually found a waitress. He finally found a good one. Miss Ochako was a dear friend of Momo. The young woman assured was a very bright girl. In fact, he could testify how young Uraraka had took the job seriously from the get-go. She was fast in delivering dishes and recovering the empty plates. She needed only a week to memorize most of the menu and was quick on the math for the customers' bills and even faster to stop dine and dashers. Even her quirk was incredibly useful to deliver more dishes at once in a single trip. 3 days a week was all the time UA and her own hero training left her as free time for the job, but compared to nothing at all, the young chef gladly accepted the extra help, especially since those 3 days covered the weekends where the influx of customers was the highest. She was even chatty and curious about him personally, and didn't mind Izuku's numerous questions about her quirk and the hero course in general. She actually looked like she was eager to be his friend. So, yes, there were now many things that made sure Izuku could be outrageously happy while working lately. Unfortunately, that morning there was instead something that made him a bit less happy: seeing Toshinori, in his All Might persona, enter his restaurant as soon as he opened while wearing a yellow-striped suit that would make fashion designers everywhere gouge out their eyes. Yes? Here again. This is the second time this week, he asked, a professional smile still present but clearly not reaching his eyes. Now he really felt like he needed Uraraka as a filter of sorts between him and the man or his old partner Sir Night-Eye. Too bad it was Monday so Ochako could not be there to take the bullet for her boss. Parley, the pro-hero tried asking with a nervous smile. You mean the let's put aside hostilities and talk like civilized people thing? Izuku asked, sighing. That one. Get in, he answered after taking a huge breath and pinching the bridge of his nose. Having sensed the hostility still lingering about and took a table on the far back under one of the restaurant's infamous quiet trees, Toshinori took a deep breath himself and addressed the core of the matter. Do you hate me? He asked, bluntly. Hate is a strong word. Do you? No. You wouldn't have helped me if you did, I see. Not really. To my shame, I mostly did it to show you and your hero friends that even as a chef I can change the world if I want to, but I did save you and changed your future with my dish all the same, didn't I? The young chef asked. So you knew? Toshinori asked. About Sir Night-Eye's prediction and how it got shattered? Yes, I was told by him during one of his numerous visits after your recovery. Same going with your dying quirk, is it back to normal now? That gave All Might a pause. He had felt one for all returned to full power even after his passing it to Mirio after eating Izuku's food, but at the beginning he had thought it was merely a temporary thing. But instead it looked like the young chef in front of him forcefully moved time backwards for All Might's body and quirk, a testament of which was the fact that now between Toshinori and All Might, there wasn't much difference in muscle sizes. Toshinori's body and quirk were now back to what he was before that fateful battle against All for One, as if nothing ever happened, and he could not understand how the boy did that. My quirk was supposed to fade away, but you resurrected it, and me with it, how? Good food and skills. Why do you say your quirk was supposed to fade away? Izuku asked back. I am sorry, I can't tell you. Then I can't tell you how my abilities work. Sorry, but as it stands your secrets are not more important than mine. Izuku answered while moving away to welcome a new duo of customers. Chef Izuku. The usual, the blonde woman in hero costume asked. Sorry for bothering you as soon as you opened, but she gets crankier than usual without her breakfast, her masked companion added, sighing. No problems for me, I am always happy to serve my customers. I also got the chocolate cake out of the fridge before opening, so it is now soft just how you like it. Does Miss Empty Lady want some together with her coffee? Izuku answered, this time with an honest happy smile. Yes, Miss Empty Lady would love that, the woman replied with a cheeky smile. Me too, if you don't mind. Kamui Woods added, shrugging. I'll be with you in a moment, he answered before walking away. Good morning. Toshinori said once seeing the two sit close by. First you get that villain before me and now you want to steal my breakfast. Empty Lady hissed in contempt. I told you that I didn't want to steal anybody's job, I was just passing by when I saw Headgear taking hostages. Yeah, whatever, she answered, making Kamui Woods shake his head in dismay at her manners. One after another, more customers came and went, and Toshinori had a first-row seat on seeing the boy managing the tables by himself while also cooking and recovering the empty plates, working tirelessly and yet exchanging smiles and jokes with the regular guests of his restaurant, except with him. Rumi-sa. Rumi-chan. Chan. It's not that hard, the bunny girl said with a mock glare. Rumi-chan, I can't be your plate, that would be hardly hygienic. And also highly unprofessional, Izuku answered. But it would make licking the plate clean so much better, she replied. That too would be bad. Afraid of getting hard, she asked with a knowing smirk. Among other things, he admitted. I swear I won't mind if that happens, Rumi promised while purposely passing her tongue extra slowly on her lips to turn them glistening. I would mind, instead. I would mind it a lot. Momo chose that moment to make her presence known, and actually sitting in front of Rumi at the same table. Momo? Izuku asked. Took a little detour for a cup of coffee and a good morning, and I am glad I did it. Don't worry, I will deal with her myself, she answered, and turning just a bit smug at the kiss on the cheek she got from the young chef before he left their table. This means nothing. Rumi hissed. What do you want from him? Is he another notch to put on your belt? What the hell do you think I am, the bunny girl asked with a growl. Somebody coming here daily at random intervals to molest him. He is trying to do his job and doesn't need a horny rabbit clinging to his leg. How dare you? What is his favorite color? Least like movies? His mother's name? What's his dream? His worst fear? Momo asked with a calm tone, opposite to Rumi's own furious one. I know many things about him and will learn even more because I am honestly interested in him, just like he is interested in me and is slowly learning more about me. On the contrary, you just want him the same way a spoiled toddler wants a new toy. I am learning to know him, the good and the bad, just like he is doing with me, and you? Do you know anything about him? What do you want from him, really? The bunny girl simply sat down at that. Thought so. He is just a new pastime until you grow bored and find something else to keep you entertained. Well, I won't let that happen. Momo declared, firmly. And what if I am serious about him? Have you two met outside the restaurant? Have you exchanged something more than a polite greeting? Talked together? Laughed together? Shared common interests? I think not. You just come here, make some crass jokes, unashamedly flirt with him to get him embarrassed and then leave. Sorry, but no relationship can be born just from teasing and flirting, no matter what your favorite shoujo manga may suggest. And you did all that instead? Rumi asked with a challenging tone. Yes. We go on dates, talk on the phone, he visits my home to teach my mother how to cook and I visit his parents' home to spend some time with him and his family. We have already argued and made peace twice this week, we have officially been together. We kissed. Yes. We just embraced and enjoyed each other's company in silence. Yes. I got his head on my lap and my head on his plenty of times too. We are close, something fundamental to develop a relationship. Do you understand the difference between us then? It was clear Rumi was angry, and yet tears too were mounting in her eyes, if from her rage or something else thought was known only to the bunny girl herself. This means nothing. Nothing. And I'll prove it to you, she hissed in answer, eyes full of animal fury. How? Let's hear. By stealing him away from you. You make him happy. Well, I'll make him happier. If I had any doubt about courting him or not, thanks to you I got my head straight, he will be mine, she declared before marching away. Over my cold dead body, Usajiyama. Momo growled back. Don't tempt me, Yaoyorozu, the other answered, slamming the door closed and disappearing around the corner. What happened? Izuku asked. He had just left the kitchen to bring Momo her breakfast to witness the bunny girl storming off. Just a fool fighting a losing battle, don't worry, she replied with a gentle, sweet smile while accepting her coffee and croissant. Okay. Just don't get hurt, please. Izuku begged, worried. Don't worry, if somebody gets hurt, that won't be me, promise, she answered. That does not reassure me. Truth be told, he admitted while walking towards All Might to deliver the man's American-style breakfast he had ordered, mountain of pancakes included. My God, I missed you, my old friends, Toshinori admitted with teary eyes while looking at the waterfall of syrup covering the small mountain of pancakes from top to bottom, then at the roasted sausages, at the crunchy bacon, at the sunny-side-up eggs and at the huge pitcher of chilled orange juice in front of himself. The oranges are freshly squeezed, imported from Sicily. Please enjoy your meal, the young chef said mechanically. I am really here to make peace, young Midoriya. Toshinori said with a sad smile. Sigh. Fine. I don't have a quirk, Toshinori-san. It's another set of abilities that I have trained very hard for. I can't say any more. Izuku whispered with a tired sigh. Achin. The pro-hero almost choked on his food at that admission. What about you? The chef asked. I am sorry, I can't tell you. Hypocrite. Whatever excuse Toshinori was about to use died in his throat when he saw the young man's eyes lose focus and then bulge out once he finished listening to whatever distracted him. You gave your quirk to somebody else? Izuku asked between clenched teeth. How do you know that? All Might asked in horror. It was mere luck they were talking with hushed tones and nobody heard them. Shut up. You said a quirkless hero was impossible even while having a way to make it possible all this time. Good God. Why? Listen, the situation is a bit more complex than dash. What? Did Mirio suck you off in exchange? Did he sleep with you? Did he take up his ass or something? Izuku said with a hiss. I did not sleep with him. Wait. You even know his name? This time Toshinori actually shrieked loud enough that everybody turned to look at them. For the love of... Arg! I will go back to my job before I say or do something I will regret. And you should thank God I respect my ingredients so much, or spitting on your plate every time you come here would be the nicest thing I do to you. Hypocrite. Liar. Betrayer. Piece of, no, my mother taught me better than this. Izuku's angry tirade was legendary, enough to shock the other customers at the rare scene, but the young chef actually stopped himself before cursing for real. He just gave a strong kick to Toshinori's shin before marching back towards his kitchen and leaving behind the famous hero All Might crying in pain while nursing his abused leg. Okay. Back to square one. He still is unhappy with me. Toshinori declared to himself with a wince. His second visit to the restaurant after he confirmed his full recovery didn't go as well as he had planned for, and only made it clear that the universe had stacked the deck against him. And he didn't even have the chance to ask the young chef the questions recovery girl demanded Toshinori to ask. The pro-hero just knew the pint-sized medic will pretty much go ballistic once learned of his failure. Did you make him dirty, All Might? Tsukachi asked as soon as he and a few of his colleagues entered the place to see the pro-hero in his current predicament. Is it that obvious? A bit, but you are still in the clear, you have not been stripped by Whitey, after all, the detective answered, amused. Yeah, small mercy that, Toshinori replied in sarcasm while watching the chubby robot peek inside the room to keep things in check and run a thumb along its neck in a threatening manner once it locked eyes with the pro-hero, although what worried Toshinori the most was seeing the Black Lord dog outside take a glance inside for a moment to send a glare at the pro-hero. Bang! In that moment every noise in the restaurant died when four burly young men wearing cheap plastic face masks and armed with crowbars and a gasoline tank barged in. Okay, assholes, out! We are here to teach some useless quirkless trash that there is no place for him here. The boss of the quartet started barking orders as soon as they all got in, and only then finally noticing who exactly was he yelling at while brandishing his crowbar. Detective Tsukachi himself, accompanied by four massive officers in full police force attire. The ninja pro-hero Ed shot together with the pro-hero Ingenium, both with their chopsticks midway to their mouth for their very first bite of long-awaited breakfast. The retired and converted to quasi-good Mexican villain El Macho, that had come to visit his daughter, a hero student at Ketsubutsu University and already known in the city as Miss Payne. With them there was also pro-hero Miss Joke acting as a guest in that breakfast meeting between father and daughter to talk about the girls' school results and future apprenticeship. A duo of undercover agents from I-Island that were using the excuse of them keeping tabs on Izuku to have some good breakfast. One of which with a quirk generating lightning from his closed fists and a penchant for testicle punching. The pro-hero Hawks that was standing in a corner waiting for a table to get free. Momo that had already created a thick police baton with her quirk and looked ready to start bashing heads. And last, but not least important, All Might himself. They all were looking at the hooligans while slowly getting up from their seats if they were sitting at a table, and all of them were pissed beyond belief. Troublemakers will be stripped as an example to others. When Whitey 2 made his appearance from the kitchen flashing red eyes and zero mercy, the hooligans understood they were in trouble. Fuck. Scatter. At their leader's order the very scared grunts did the smart thing and bolted out of the restaurant to board the car waiting for them with the engine already warm so as to get away at high speed. Get them, one of the police officers yelled, but before the group could give chase, Izuku stopped them. No need. He said. They are not worthy of you all abandoning your breakfast. I got Whitey for this sort of bullies. But they dash. Whitey, fetch. Izuku ordered while patting the robot's soft belly. Understood, the robot answered while the restaurant door opened by itself. Bang! To the present surprise the chubby robot simply blurred away at insane speed soon followed by the noise of the sound barrier being torn to shreds by a speeding body. Please return to your breakfast, and as an apology for this inconvenience, the first coffee refill will be on me this time. Izuku offered with a bow and a gentle smile. Relax, guys, that robot has everything under control. The undercover agents from I-Island reassured the others while returning to their table with a knowing smile etched on their faces. Oh, yeah. They are screwed. With Whitey. Waka. The sports car the five guys had rented for their escape was roaring at full throttle as they tried escaping from the fat robot, which instead was rapidly gaining terrain on them while running with heavy, thumping steps. Thump. 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 Faster. Faster. I am trying. The driver shrieked in answer, and using all her abilities to take a daring turn so suddenly the car went briefly on two wheels before slamming back down on all four to sprint away. Bang! What the fuck? To their horror as soon as they actually turned the corner Whitey was already waiting for them to grab the front of the car and abruptly stop them, with the back wheels of the car spinning in place so fast the tires looked ready to catch fire. Troublemakers will be stripped as an example to others. Whitey declared loudly, thing that made the people around them in the area grow horrified at the strange threat. Let us go, the leader of the gang yelled. No, was the robot's answer as his grip on the car's front tightened, and with a mighty pull of his big hands, the entire vehicle went torn in half as if made of tissue paper, making the five hooligans fall sitting on the street with bulged-out eyes. Beginning stripping protocol. Whitey said once thrown away the 2 car halves while walking towards the 5 with heavy steps. Fuck off. Knife hand, one of the guys said while activating his quirk and turning his fingers into dagger-long blades. Slap. Bang. Stripe. Unfazed by the incoming attack, Whitey gave a downward slap to the guy that slammed him headfirst on the concrete hard enough to knock the jock unconscious instantly, and once sure he was not moving, the robot grabbed the back of the guy's clothes and pulled, tearing those to shreds and letting the unconscious young man still in his boxers fly away and land on the near walkway. 1 down, 4 remaining. Stay away. Devil's leg, another said, igniting his leg on fire thanks to his heat-controlling quirk to deliver a flaming spin kick to Whitey's head. Troublemakers will be stripped as an example to others. The plump robot simply took the attack head-on without a scratch or his head moving at all. He just looked at the attacker straight in the eyes, unfazed. What the fuck are you made of? The guy shrieked in horror, but his only answer was a backhanded slap that knocked him out for Whitey to strip down right after. Too bad the guy decided that day was a good day to go commando. 3 troublemakers remaining. Whitey declared once thrown the second fainted hooligan on top of the first. Together, brother. Yeah. Magnetic twist GUF. Before the 2 twins could actually initiate their combo attack, they both had a magnetic quirk. One brother had a positive pole, the other a negative pole. Whitey simply opted for flash stepping in front of them and smashed their heads together a couple times until they too fainted. Then he stripped them and threw them on the pile. 1 troublemaker remaining, he then said as his red eyes landed on the only girl of the group possessing a quirk making her a human-cheetah hybrid. And screaming in terror, the young woman showed her enhanced speed by turning around and running as fast as she could. No escape, the robot was unimpressed, and simply pointing his right closed fist at her, the entire arm detached at the elbow and shoot forward like a missile to immediately grab her ankle and start pulling her back towards Whitey. No. No. Please no. Anything but that. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. Please. Please. Reduced to a blabbing mess crying in hysteria, the last masked hooligan clawed in despair on the floor as she was rapidly dragged back, gaining her many looks of sympathy as bystanders started begging Whitey to show mercy. Troublemakers must be stripped as an example to others. Whitey answered as soon as his arm reconnected and his hand grabbed her by the collar. I'll talk. I'll tell you who sent us. Others told us to do this. I swear I am innocent. I had no choice, the young woman begged while crying heavily, snot and tears drenching her face mask. I am listening. Whitey said after a long pause that almost scared the woman to death, then his eyes turned from red to white and the robot just observed her. I will talk, I swear I will talk, I am innocent, they said I would have been kicked out if I didn't do this, the girl babbled and hiccuped heavily. Troublemakers will be taken back to the restaurant for questioning. Any resistance will be met with extreme prejudice. Whitey declared while moving the girl on his right shoulder and holding the other unconscious men under his left arm. Yes, the woman shrieked in answer. Boom. Once again a loud sound blared around the robot as the thing dashed away at high speed to return to Izuku, leaving behind a shocked audience of passerby, one of which a young woman by the name Mei Hatsum that was looking longingly at the robot in badly restrained need to disassemble it to learn how it worked. Not too far away a hidden spy of the League of Villains that happened to be in the area to kidnap Tomoko of the Wild Pussycats was instead cursing the robot's existence, because half of the hooligan's car Whitey threw away actually landed on him before he could do the deed and overpower her in that empty hallway, and by the looks the young green-haired woman was throwing at him now that she was free of his hold on her. The lackey just knew the car wreckage that smashed his legs will be the least of his worries. Especially once he'd seen the furious intent the famous ragdoll was cracking her knuckles with. Had someone seen it, the old-school beatdown the pro-hero administered on her wannabe kidnapper would have gone down in history for its raw brutality. Unfortunately for the guy nobody saw them, and the lack of witnesses meant Tomoko could go as much heavy-handed as she wanted on the guy while tenderizing him. All for one won't like to discover that because of Whitey, both the Wild Pussycats and several other pro-heroes now knew he was interested in capturing Ragdoll. The villain was starting to really dislike that accursed quirkless chef. While Tomoko was brutalizing the villain with a brick, green cloud restaurant. The customers were indeed surprised to see Whitey return just a couple minutes after his departure while carrying the unconscious hooligans like sacks of potatoes the robot just threw on the floor once inside. Troublemakers captured. The female one is willing to talk, the robot explained. Really? Okay, then. Why did you try to destroy this place? Let's hear. Tsukachi asked while he and his colleagues cuffed them all. Yamato. Rector Yamato sent us. She said that if we didn't smash this place and force the chef to stop cooking she would have failed us all. I swear. She sent us. The others did it for fun because he is just a quirkless, but I had no other choice. I am in Inoshiki Academy with a scholarship, I need that to keep studying, the young woman said immediately while eyeing Whitey in fear. No lies detected. Whitey informed the detective. The rector of Inoshiki Academy, Izuku muttered with a cold tone. Yes, I can tell she is not lying. Tsukachi answered. The rector is called Yamato Kuragawa if I am not mistaken, one of the officers said. Why did she want this place gone? Miss Joke asked, confused. Because I scared her precious friend Samui with my skills during a small cooking competition they both were in as judges, Izuku answered, and many of the present felt a chill crawl up their spines at the absolute lack of humanity in the chef's voice. First they tried burning down my restaurant, then to contaminate the water, then they tried sending cockroaches and rats and then they bribed health inspectors and food critics to force me to close, the young chef hissed while pulling away her mask so as to better glare at the young woman. Growling. When the appetite demon appeared behind him to growl at the cheetah girl, Izuku's glare grew tenfold in intensity, soon making her pale to unhealthy levels. Do you have proof of all that? Tsukachi asked, tense, and ready to intervene should things escalate between the two. Of course I don't need to tell you that they were smart enough to not leave behind anything leading back to them. No, it's very likely they covered their traces, and even should Seichi confess, they will probably throw her under the bus and say she was just trying to blame them to save herself, the detective answered, sighing. Host is rightfully furious about this new attack. It is time to move on the offensive and teach the enemy the true horror of the future god of cooking of the hero world and his rage. Underscore 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 underscore. Abrupt mission. Challenge the 5 best students of Inoshiki Academy in a cooking contest and defeat them. Challenge the 4 best teachers of Inoshiki Academy and its rector in a cooking contest and defeat them. Reward, 10% bonus on experience points and 1 fragment of the God of Cooking set. Special reward for completing 5 cooking challenges in a single day, time-elapsing cabinet. Everything put in that cabinet to marinate, decanter, ferment or freeze will do so at an accelerated rate up to 100 times faster. Underscore 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 underscore. You have 1 month to complete the mission, work hard and destroy your competition, young man. The system instructed as soon as Izuku's anger reached the peak, and the fanged smile that almost split his face in two actually made the bound cheetah girl pee herself, if one watched the big wet spot that appeared on the front of her pants. Very well. If they want war, I will give them war. You are a student of Inoshiki Academy, yes? He asked. Why yes sir. The young woman replied, nodding as fast as her neck could let her. Good. I want you to go back and give a message to your rector Yamato Kuragawa. In exactly 7 days I will pay your university a visit. I want to challenge your 5 best students and the 5 best teachers, one of which will be Yamato herself, to a cooking duel. If they win I will close my restaurant forever, but if I win, they will leave me alone and stop bothering me. Can you do this for me? Izuku asked. Why yes. But I don't know if they will accept. It's either that or him taking this to court. I too will personally vouch for him in court if he needs, Toshinori tried saying, clearly disappointed in such villainous tactics being used. All of the present will testify as well. Miss Joke added, arms crossed with a frown on her face. Many around the room nodded as well. Oh okay. The cheetah girl said, weakly, while being helped to stand thanks to Tsukachi pulling on her arm. Very good. While my colleagues take your friends to jail for attempted acts of vandalism and assault, me and you will go deliver this fancy little challenge, then you will join them, okay? The detective said. Yes, sir, I am sorry. She answered, crying once again. Sigh. We'll be gentle in your case, since they forced you to be the driver for this idiotic farce, let's go. He answered with a sigh of dismay while he and the other agents, begrudgingly, left the restaurant after barely having had enough time to actually drink their coffee. While this happened, the two undercover agents sent a message to Island telling them what happened to one of their darlings, and about the cooking challenge. This in turn angered the old man enough he himself made a couple phone calls to make sure those guys did accept the challenge and took it seriously. Are you sure you want to do this? Inoshiki is one of the premier schools for chefs, you told me so yourself. Momo asked, worried. This is the last chance for them to close this feud they have against me in a civilized manner. After this, I will either send Whitey or Blackie to deal with them, depending on how hard they spit on my offer of peace. Izuku answered, sighing. Blackie? The young woman muttered while stealing a glance at the Lord Dog sleeping outside. Wouldn't that mean sending a nuke towards them? She asked in dread. As a last resort, I am no bully. I just want them to leave me alone, but they keep pushing and threatening me. I am just returning the favor. He answered with a tiny smile. Just don't overdo it, okay? I won't, Momo. Thunk. It was then that Whitey walked inside the kitchen and brought out a big squared wooden cabinet made in lacquered dark reddish wood giving off a faint and pleasant flowery smell. The thing was decorated with cloud carvings and hinges and corner covers were made in shining bronze. Host, please collect a knife from each chef defeated and put it here, as a reminder of your skills. Whitey repeated the system's words while opening both doors of the thing to show the various empty hooks inside. Taking trophies may be a bit too harsh though. Toshinori commented, unsure. It is not my fault if we came to this. I am just taking a knife with their names written on it as a reminder of my victory, as a way for me to feel pride for my skills. They will still be able to study and all, I am not crippling them. Izuku answered while caressing the thing. Okay, I will do it, he then said aloud. Who heard him thought he was accepting the cabinet suggestion. In reality the young chef was accepting the abrupt mission of the system. Understood. Whitey said before taking the wooden cabinet and mounting it on the wall next to the small window connecting kitchen to main hall. It was still empty, but many wondered how many knives will one day fill it since there were a lot of knife-holding hooks ready to be used. After that, the customers present that had already eaten left so that others could fill the main room of the Green Cloud restaurant and have their breakfast, and among the ones leaving, many were already telling their friends what had happened, and those friends told their friends, who told their friends and so on, soon spreading the rumor of a lone chef moving a personal crusade against his enemies. A week later, Inoshiki Academy, main cooking classroom. The rector of the private university for aspiring chefs, Yamato Kagagawa, was a middle-aged woman in her 60s with her hair in a very strict chignon and wearing her old chef attire with the utmost pride. The thing was also still sporting the 3 stars she had added to the small pocket over her heart when in her youth she had gained the 3rd Michelin star for her personal restaurant, nowadays owned and directed by her son himself, he too present to help her face Izuku's challenge. The woman was now marching between the seats of the full kitchen/class and admiring the 20 students there, especially the 5 that were placed in the first row and puffing their chest out. I pride. I won't sugarcoat it. The guy that challenged our school's pride is a monster, somebody with unnatural cooking talent that popped out from the woodwork like the nightmare he is. He openly challenged our 5 kings and our 4 best teachers, and myself, to a cooking showdown. the woman said before walking back towards her desk to look in the eyes of the students in front of her. Normally I would have laughed at this preposterous challenge, especially so since he is also a quirkless, but other than astounding talent, the little bastard has powerful friends backing him too, and after an incident where 4 of our EX students forced a 5th to act as their driver while they went to punish him for some inane reason, we risk being dragged to court for a case of assault that will simply destroy us if we don't go along and accept this challenge of his, she then said, barely hiding her anger at remembering how the morons she sent on such a simple mission to scare a quirkless had failed so hard. All Might of all people was ready to intervene in what could be the greatest PR nightmare she had ever seen, second only to when those paparazzi caught her father basking a still-alive turkey with his dick. That had been a nightmare and a half to cover. Why us? One of the 5 best students of Inoshiki, the 5 kings, asked. Because those idiots tried saying we sent them to demolish the restaurant and beat the stuffing out of that boy, and since I do have a past with that chef, due to common acquaintances, it wouldn't be hard for him to twist things in a way that makes all of us look like the villains, and that means both students and teachers will have their reputation tarnished forever, and I will be caught dead before that happens, she answered, and the class gave a loud roar of appreciation to her words. Good to see you all motivated. This is what we will do. We accepted the challenge and will play nice while following the rules we both agreed on. He and us will use the same ingredients and the same appliances to cook, and the best dish and chef wins, simple as that. There is a catch. If he wins, he will take one of your knives as a trophy and pretend the loser to write their name on the blade as a reminder, but if he loses, he will actually close his restaurant forever. We only need one of you to defeat him, so do your best, the old woman instructed. We'll destroy him, madam, the girl ranked number 1 of the 5 kings answered immediately. I hope so. Now, head count, kings. Yamato's son gave a barking order. Number 5, meet king. Toshio, present, a chubby boy with fiery red hair said while stepping forward. Number 4, fish king. Sadao, present, a lean girl with long lime green hair walked forward next, eyes narrowed into slits. Number 3, dessert king. Michiko, present. A short girl with blotchy cheeks and a dozen purple tentacles for hair said right after while adjusting her thick glasses. Number 2, vegetable king. Takeo, present, an extremely tall young man with broad shoulders and muscled body answered next, his voice loud like thunder. Many girls in the class swooned hard once heard him, as always whenever he talked. Number 1, soup king. Meiko, present. The last one was a tall girl of incomparable beauty, white hair and gray eyes able to freeze the blood of whoever she looked at. She was just as beautiful as she was cold and merciless. This time it was the male half of the class to simp loudly for her. You all trained and studied extra hard these 7 days, do not disappoint me. Yamato ordered with a low voice. Never, madam, the 5 students replied as one. Attention please. All students be advised. He is here, a young voice was heard saying gravely from the speakers inside the classroom, just like from every other speaker around the university, and that message caused a deep silence to befall on the entire campus. Tell Professor Kurwa to bring him here, it's time to start. Yamato asked her son with a tense tone. I'll do it, and I will also alert the teachers you have chosen and tell them to be ready, just in case, the young man answered before hurrying out. Thank you. You others, take position and take this challenge seriously, treat it like a fight with your life on the line. Of course, madam, the 5 kings answered as one. University entrance. Izuku was looking at the wide and opulent entrance garden leading to the majestic gate of the building proper, and declaring whoever built the place to be an avid rom-com manga reader, because the entire path towards the entrance had at both sides 2 long rows of giant cherry trees, meaning that during the right season pink petals would fall everywhere around the students in a very cliché way during their entire walk to the entrance. Now I understand what the main character of a 90s manga feels like. Should I run through it with toast dangling from my mouth, I wonder? Sigh. Let's go, Whitey. Giving a gentle pat on the robot's soft belly behind him, Whitey was also carrying on his back the wooden knife cabinet. Izuku lightly slapped his own cheeks and marched forward towards the lanky man in expensive suit waiting for him. Midoriya, the man said as soon as the young chef reached him. Ahoo! Follow me, the teacher answered before walking away with a brisk pace. Eagle 1, I have a clear view of subject 37. I will follow him from outside. Over. A small drone also followed the duo from outside thanks to the ample windows in the corridors. Inside. Mimic 3, I see them. They are going to classroom 7. Over. The guy pretending to be one of the janitors said to the hidden microphone inside the broom in his hands. Understood. Here is minimize. I will shrink myself to ant size and enter the room. I will record everything but go radio silent. Over. Another. Spy of I Island answered with a nod before activating his quirk and shrinking down to the size of an ant to pass under the door and spy on Izuku's challenge. Attention to all posts, be ready for forceful extraction should those morons try anything. Over. The old man guiding the operation ordered. Yes sir. Inside the classroom. Miss Ray, your friend just entered, what do I do? One of the girls in the back stealthily wrote on her phone as soon as Izuku got in. Keep an eye on Iken for me, and send me a call should things go south. Your mother and I will come to recover him and you in a matter of minutes, so just buy us time in case of an emergency. Rei Yaoyorozu texted back. Okay, the girl replied, rapidly hiding her phone before anybody could catch her. Good evening, Izuku said with a formal bow towards the old woman. Good evening. This challenge was a bit of a show of strength, and not a very refined one. Yamato said with a cold tone. There was no other choice, you and your little friends glued your derrieres on top of a pedestal and started attacking me as soon as your poor friend Samui got scared of competition. If good manners don't work, I will use strength. I won't be bullied. He whispered while presenting his hand to her. Listen here, you little upstart Sheek, making the mistake of shaking his hand. The old woman felt a hydraulic press threaten to turn her bones to dust when his hand almost squashed hers to stop her cussing, although the merciless light in his eyes came right after to silence her subtle shriek as well. No human should have those eyes. First your students, then your teachers, then you. You caused this, not me, he answered before walking towards his own cooking station to check it. No tampering has been detected, host Izuku. You can give your all, the system informed him while Whitey swept the room with red eyes and then settling in a corner of the room to observe everything. Whenever you want, I am ready. Izuku said while tying a green bandana on his head. You'll have to work your way up, kiddo. But while I may be the fifth, I am still way beyond you in abilities, the fifth king, meet King Toshio, said with a sneer shaking his flabby cheeks heavily as he took position on the cooking station at the opposite side of Izuku. The rest of the classroom moved away to give the two all the space they needed while the other kings sat on chairs right in front of them to observe. Yamato and her son did the same right after. As the very first challenge of Midoriya Izuku vs the Five Kings, we prepared something special for this first round, Yamato said with a malicious smile as her son brought along a tray covered by a pure white cloth with Inoshiki's insignia embroidered on it. You will regret leaving the choice of ingredients to us, boy. I will destroy you. No quirkless upstart shall put my grandfather's Inoshiki Academy to shame. The old woman mentally roared as her soul momentarily turned putrid black. This will be your ingredient, bear meat. Yamato's son, Minato, declared while uncovering several amazing cuts of marvelous meat neatly disposed and divided into groups following the type of cut. WOW, the class as one gave a loud scream of awe. Look at that meat's marbling, a young man said in reverential awe while committing to memory every delicate line of fat adorning the meat. That luster. How can raw meat shine like a jewel, a girl said right after, sounding almost ready to cry at the innate beauty of the thing. That is truly the peak of what bear meat can be, a third said, awed. Analysis, meat quality, passable. Does the host wish the system to switch it with the berserker bear meat host collected in the jungle world? Host can also use jewel meat if he so wishes, the system declared in a tone of almost contempt instead of monotonous. As expected from an entity as merciless as the system, your standards are way too high. No need, jewel meat or those bears would be like going to a gunfight armed with a nuke. I will fight them equally, no need to cheat with them. Izuku thought in answer while checking the meat himself. You bled, carved and processed this quite well. 2 different people did it though. The belly meat has been carved with a different technique than the other cuts. Izuku said after a couple minutes, making Yamato and Minato's eyebrows shot high in surprise. Indeed, you have some good eyes. Minato admitted, impressed. And you have bad knives, this cut on the belly meat is 2 millimeters off. As far as I am concerned, this meat is unusable, if not completely ruined. I will use the paws. Izuku countered, displeased, while taking the skinned paws of the bear and returning to his station. They wanted to play the prissy game. Then they will face a master. He used to be the king of chefs as Zaus. He used to have a net worth of billions with thousands of restaurants under his direct control. He had standards he could be annoying about if he so wished. Especially when he and Setsuno used to go into pissing contests when younger and purposely finding every tiny chance to criticize the other's dish as a form of friendly rivalry, he still remembered how to be annoyingly picky on purpose. Why you? Yamato hissed between clenched teeth, happy to be secretly streaming the challenge for thousands to see him fail. You are insulting meat, you quirkless bastard. Toshio growled while taking his own selection of bear meat and preparing some frying oil together with batter. No. You insulted it by using the bear paws as mere decoration to demonstrate what animal this was. They have barely bled, and who skinned them did so just to not make them unpleasant to look at by leaving the fur on them only. The paws are the pride of a bear, and you ruined them just to appease your ego. So I will make sure this poor bear will have her revenge by using her ruined paws to slaughter that ego of yours. Izuku answered with sharp eyes. You know it's a female? Yamato asked. I am a chef, Yamato-san. I honor ingredients every time I put them on the chopping board. I thank them from the bottom of my heart for their sacrifice and always make sure their taste is worthy of such sacrifice. That is a true chef to me, he answered, and a few for an instant thought the paws in front of him gained just a bit more luster at his words. Unknown to them, Izuku could still hear the voice of ingredients, and the paw's feeling of gratitude boosted his morale to high levels. Many also laughed at his bold claim, except for the king's number 2 and one that instead seemed to appreciate his words, somehow. We'll see if you are as good at cooking than at talking. Let's go. Toshio roared as he slammed a meat grinder on his workstation and started grinding roast, back ribs and round bear meat together into a rough mix. Of course. Izuku answered while studying the paws and delicately adjusting the meat's smoothness ruined by the improper skinning with a few feather-light cuts of his knife, then gently removing the small claws and setting them aside as a lucky charm of sorts. To be fair, it was not exactly carelessness or unwillingness the cause of the paw's bad shape. Most chefs simply preferred not to use the paws due to the high ratio of tough muscles in them compared to the rest of the body, so while a bit tasty in itself as an ingredient, whoever prepared the meat thought that in a challenge between kids nobody would have dared to use the paws, so a light-hearted job was done because of it, for the sake of appearances. Sniff. Sniff. Yes, this will suffice, the bouquet is good enough. Izuku said while positioning both paws into a pot and fully covering them in white wine to remove the faint traces of unpleasant smell still clinging to the meat after its incomplete treatment. The other contestant, instead. 5 flavor berries essence, Japanese sake, diced onion and just a pinch of salt, and the unpleasant smell of bear becomes heavenly delicious. The Meat King was heard muttering with a low, ominous voice as he ground the meat again once mixed those ingredients with it, his smile unpleasant and creepy as drool faintly flowed down his double chin. Whitey, the class heard Izuku say. Host? Bring me these herbs and this honey from that cabinet. I would prefer to not leave my workstation unsupervised, he asked after jotting down a rapid list on a piece of paper. Understood, the robot answered while walking towards the ingredients cabinet Yamato furnished for this challenge. There is no need to fear, we won't need to cheat to win this. Mako, King number 1, answered, sneering. Forgive me if I do not trust you, but I am still in enemy territory, caution is essential, he answered while returning the stare with interest. Host, here are the ingredients. Whitey in the meantime had returned with the spices and herbs and the honey the young man asked for. Good. They will help me prepare a good stock. Izuku answered, happily, and soon filled the room in the aromatic scent of the stock he prepared with those and left to boil at low flame. Afraid of the bear meat aroma? Toshio asked with a savage smile. Hn. Let me tell you a secret, bear meat is my favorite ingredient. There is not a single thing I don't know about it. I already cooked it in every possible way. I dare say that I have eaten enough bear meat to put the species at risk, the fat boy said while collecting a thick broth-like sauce made with the bear meat itself and adding it to the ground meat, fearlessly adding more of the innate wild flavor of the bear meat to the already flavorful mixture he just created. Not surprising, really. Izuku admitted while recovering the bear paws from their wine bath to lightly coat them in honey and then submerge them in the bubbling stock. Are you calling me fat? The young man shrieked with bloodshot eyes. What? No. I meant that of course they would choose an ingredient you are most suitable with to try and get an easy win. I would never insult somebody for their looks. Izuku answered, appalled, and actually looked hurt at the insinuation. Oh, okay. No offense taken then, the Meat King replied, immediately calming down. While this small exchange happened, the fat boy had prepared the side sauce for the hamburger patties of highly aromatic bear meat he had knelt by hand, and as soon as the oil in his pan started sizzling, he started frying, soon engulfing the room into an explosion of meaty aroma, but even if the people present felt like they were choking, the scent was still amazing. Do you feel it now, you little pest? The pressure of my students? Of the kings I personally nurtured? Yamato thought maliciously while looking at Izuku in hope to see him despair, and finding him utterly uninterested instead, too taken by his own cooking to even notice what was happening around him. Hn, not bad. That was all the comment she heard him give at the aroma, and even that seemed half-hearted at best. I fucking hate you, the old woman roared inside her head while looking ready to spit venom everywhere. Your hamburgers are ready. Izuku actually said aloud a couple minutes later. He hadn't been looking at Toshio at all, he just took a sudden sniff to the scent in the air and gave his verdict. Mind your own business, you bloodhound, the Meat King roared in answer, only to notice his hamburgers were indeed ready, and taking them out of the oil immediately with a surprised expression. By frying I have concentrated and strengthened the bear aroma even more. A razor edge between deliciousness and ruin. You can't get closer than this, he declared once finished preparing his dish. The big fried hamburger steak glistened in the room's light thanks to the thick fatty oils gently flowing down from its top, releasing an intense and thick aroma every time Toshio moved it while dividing it into portions for the judges and Izuku himself. Amazing! He used bear meat in a way that produced such intense aroma without a single iota of stink. How? A girl asked in shock. He is the Meat King. What the hell did you expect? Another student answered. Mincemeat katsu. With meat straight from the bear's bones. The most intense bear flavor humanity has ever seen. Toshio declared, boldly. We will proceed with the tasting then. Yamato declared once she, her son Minato and the other kings all got a plate. Bit of an unfair judging group. Izuku admitted, sighing. I don't know what is the history between our rector and you, but I do have a sense of pride as a chef. If Toshio made an inferior dish he would lose, if he made a better dish he would win. School pride has nothing to do with this. King 2, Takeo, answered. And again his female classmates simped hard for him. Same here. If he loses, it will mean he is just unfit to be a king. No need to cheat and save a loser. I do have my dignity. Mako, King 1, chorused as well, and both kings skillfully ignored the hateful glare Yamato stealthily sent them. That's a bit too harsh. Izuku answered, sighing, while trying the piece of hamburger steak Toshio prepared and growing pleasantly surprised. Sour. Bitter. Sweet. Spices. And salt. Only somebody truly knowing every facet of the taste of bear meat can achieve such a result and turn the stink of a beast into a gourmet delicacy. Yamato declared once tasted the thing. She too pleased to the core. Good control of the flame and oil's temperature, the meat has been cooked just right to make it tender and flavorful. Impressive for somebody so young. Minato added, his narrowed eyes were also studying the cross-section of the meat created by his bite and the knife that cut through it. Thank you, Mr. Minato. Toshio replied while puffing out his chest. Too greasy, though. There is oil everywhere. The boy's sails went then immediately deprived of wind by Mako's words right after as she scrunched her nose a bit at the overflowing of oil when she tried squeezing the meat. That is part of the dish. At each bite the meat juices and the oil mix together with the meat to create a soup-like dash. Do not talk about soup with me, pig, the king number 1 interrupted him with a glare, silencing him. This is at best a good dish for some barely decent fast food restaurant. Good for nothing beside clogging arteries and satisfying fatty losers. You ground some meat and fried it, big deal. Now be quiet and enjoy your win, if you win. Since that other idiot at least used more complex techniques compared to yours, the young woman's tirade was frosty cold, probably thanks to her own quirk since the temperature around her did turn colder the longer she spoke. Sorry, Miss Mako, Toshio muttered while looking down, chastised. High-strung, maybe? Izuku thought, surprised by the outburst. The girl's quirk generates cold by absorbing inside herself the warmth around her. As a side effect her self-control slips and she is victim of a burst of anger once enough heat is stored. One can say she overheats herself to turn everything else around her. Cold, the system explained, and the young chef could only look at the girl in amazement, and just a bit of pity. That side effect gave him a good inkling as to why she didn't try to become a hero even with such an amazing quirk. I like it, instead. Izuku declared. Ah. Yes, it's greasy. Yes, it is not a fancy dish, but I can see friends share some good moments while eating this. The taste is very strong, in a good way, and the garlic and berries counterbalance well the gamey aroma still in the meat. This is very good. As you said, every bite is a bomb of flavor that makes me crave for more. Good job, he explained while happily eating his own portion. Thank you, but I don't need your pity. Toshio muttered, bitterly, yet thankful all the same. This is a good start for this challenge, now finish your plate so we will be able to choose the winner. Minato asked once every plate was eaten clean, except Mako that left her half full to keep her point. Almost ready, the young chef answered. Once satisfied with the first boiling, Izuku took out the bear paws and put them aside to clean the wok and refill it with clean water and a new batch of diced herbs and spices. All the while the bear paws kept letting out thin steam lines carrying meaty fragrance with a touch of gamey undertone, just enough to entice the appetite without resulting unpleasant. The young chef repeated the boiling another 2 times at always shorter length and changed herbs and spices used at each new boiling, slowly letting their flavor deep inside the meat. Washed the wok a 3rd time, oil was finally used to rapidly fry herbs and berries before the paws went added to the wok he then left to simmer in peace. The fragrance still had a hint of a gamey smell but now any trace of stink had been fully removed, leaving behind only the pleasant smell of such unique meat cooking slowly, and whenever Izuku gave a toss to the wok to turn the paws in it around, many female students could not help but be entranced by the young man's serious expression and the glittering of his eyes while he admired his work. Unknown to him both in the class and in the live stream he was very slowly gaining the attention of the onlookers, all for the chagrin of Momo that saw the comments in the same livestream she found thanks to her mother, and she didn't like it one bit to see more girls showing interest in him. After boiling and simmering the bear paws, the meat had become extremely soft and tender while retaining a faint trace of its old marbling. The 2 things looked extremely delicate and beautiful like a replica made in precious stone. Retrieving a huge and round porcelain plate, the tender bear paws were then placed into the center and decorated by a thin layer of minced aromatic herbs. And once put aside some of the meat juices remaining from the simmering, the wok went rapidly washed and cleaned a last time to prepare a thick gravy to which the tiny portion of the sauce from the simmered paws went added once almost ready. Then the ruddy sauce went gently drizzled on top of the meat producing a wave of aroma and gently enveloped the entire room. Holy fuck, how? It smells just as good as Toshio's dish, only gentler, the same student from before commented in awe. Red braised bear paws, please enjoy. Izuku said once properly cleaned the plate with a piece of cloth and cut the paw's meat in thin slices with zero effort, as if to show the sublime tenderness the once tough meat now possessed and the delicate rosy color still present in the innermost part of the meat. Plates went rapidly filled in meat, not only for the judges though, but for the rest of the class as well. A sheepish Izuku could just give a shy smile and explain that in his haste to avenge the bear he prepared too much meat and that he would have hated to waste it. To prepare the meat he managed to cut it while perfectly following the direction of the muscle fibers. This is the job of a surgeon, not a chef, Minato said while studying the delicate and thin slice of meat he picked up in great interest. The gravy's thickness and texture too is impressive. What school do you come from? King 3 asked, honestly impressed. A private tutor. As a quirkless I always end at the bottom of the waiting list. After a while I stopped bothering and found a personal teacher and a sponsor. Izuku answered, shrugging. That's a damn fat shame, this looks amazing. What about the taste? King 4 answered while taking a bite and falling dead silent. Sniffle. 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 Everybody's attention soon turned to Toshio the Meat King, and the fat tears falling from his eyes as he chewed his own portion. The boy was crying his eyes out and yet looked unable to stop eating, no matter the almost physical pain that taste caused him. What? Yamato muttered as a dark sense of foreboding climbed along her spine at the sense of déjà vu the scene gave her. Holy fuck, a student in the back was heard gasping in shock. It's soft. And tender. And the aroma is strong yet gentle. How? A girl added with wide eyes. Strong and gentle. You mean like the bear pride he talked about, shit? He turned a bear's pride into a flavor? You can do that, another said, talking with her mouth unashamedly still full. The piping hot piece of bear paw meat was topped with bits of chopped herbs and peppers while the red broth dripping from the pieces of meat exuded steam. The scent was fragrant, but not too dense. Spicy enough to tickle the nose without completely covering the inborn wild taste of the meat, but enriching it. No matter how much one chewed, there seemed to be no end to the taste, it just kept coming and filling the mouth in its vigorous flavor, helped by the still chewy texture of the meat that even if really tender still maintained part of its springiness. Oh nom nom. Takeo the Vegetable King tried really hard to ignore the loud munching sounds coming from the girl sitting next to him, valiantly trying to preserve the dignified image of Mako he had long since created in his mind ever since they went to the same middle school together all the way to the same university. Can you at least try to keep your composure, Mako-chan? He begged. Shush, the secret foodie answered, annoyed. How is it? How does my dish taste? Izuku asked, watching Yamato struggle with her words once tried some herself. Guh, the old woman growled while glaring at him. Mother? Minato asked. It's decent. As far as I am concerned, Toshio wins, she answered. Silence fell into the room, a silence of pure disbelief. Mom, Minato exclaimed with a disappointed sigh. Toshio wins, end of story. I lost, Toshio himself admitted right after. You, the old woman roared in anger. It's true. The meat is tender but not greasy, fresh, and does not smell, its taste is simply amazing. The Meat King admitted in tears. He had seen it at the first bite already, the very bear they both had cooked, he saw it, rose to her hind legs and swiped down with her paws to crush Toshio with all her might, destroying him and his dish with a single strike and avenging her lost honor. He could not summon enough pride to forcefully declare himself the winner, he just could not. The flavor of the bear paw's meat lingered on his palate. It tasted delicious, and he almost lost himself to its flavor. Before that moment, he had never tasted such a unique flavor in his life. No matter how many experiments he did while cooking his beloved bear meat, that very same balance of tastes had always escaped him, and now with Izuku's dish, he had finally tasted it, and the bitter truth that he could not reach that taste obliterated his pride as a bear meat expert and meat king, hence the tears. The entire classroom was filled with the loud sound of people munching still, and each one of them had an expression of bliss, or greed if their plate was already empty and they were looking for more meat to gorge themselves with. The choice of ingredient was a daring gamble, considering your ingredient had been badly prepared too, but the technique displayed while cooking was nothing short of sublime. No matter the pride I may feel as a student of Inoshiki myself, I am still duty-bound to judge objectively. This round is yours, Midoriya. Minato declared with a nod. Traitor, his mother Yamato howled in fury. We second the motion. The winner is Mr. Midoriya, the other kings declared as one after a short whispered conference between them. No-oh! Yamato roared. It was a given, Miss Rector. I hold no regrets. Toshio answered with a sorrowful expression while taking one of the knives he had used to cook his dish with and using a permanent marker to write his name along the blade before delivering it to Izuku. She was right, you are a damn monster. Can I have a rematch sometime in the future? He asked, meekly. I would be honored. Izuku answered. Both young chefs exchanged a bow at that. Do it in private. You are hereby out of my university. I won't have a subpar loser ruining my reputation. Yamato's outburst shocked everybody, even herself, before turning towards her assistant. Tell me at least that nobody saw this shameful display during the live stream. Live stream? Izuku asked. Live stream? Minato also chorused. Madam, we have 50,000 viewers, and more keep arriving, the poor assistant replied with a small voice. Turn it off. Turn it off, the old woman ordered immediately. We are no longer hosting it. I can't turn it off. Somebody hijacked the transmission. Who? She demanded, and the question made a couple hackers from I-Island smugly flash their middle fingers at the screen while making sure more people were notified of the attack on Inoshiki Academy so as to add more viewers to the live stream. Along making sure Toshio could find an acceptance letter for another private university for chefs already waiting for him when he will get home. I am out. Fair enough, I never liked it here anyway, working under a hag that believes we youngsters don't want to work hard, it's a nightmare. I am chubby because I want to be and maybe because I eat too much meat, laziness and ungrateful new generations have nothing to do with it. I'll just find another university that will appreciate my hard work. Toshio declared with his head held high while marching out. How dare you? Piss off back in your pyramid, you mummy, the former meat king answered, unfazed. Hey! Destroy the others too, nothing personal, but if you throw Yamato down her high horse maybe she will become a bearable human. Toshio declared before slamming the classroom door closed behind himself and leaving the school with his head held high once retrieved his personal belongings. Okay. Maybe there were some buried issues between him and us. Fish King Sadao admitted, grimacing. I blame Mako, she is the one with an attitude, the Dessert King answered. Hey! Mako answered, face red in annoyance. Little shameful display aside, Minato said while nailing his mother with a glare thankfully strong enough to silence her. We still have more rounds to go through. You up for it, Mr. Midoriya? He asked. Yes, thank you. I would like to challenge all the 5 kings today before leaving and leave the teachers and Yamato-san for tomorrow, if it's okay for you. Izuku answered with a nervous smile. Everybody fell silent at that request, it was just too bold, too wild, and nobody actually knew how to answer that besides gaping at him in shock. Okay. We'll have a 5 minutes pause to clean everything, then we will continue with the next round. Chef Izuku vs Fish King Sadao. Minato declared, unsure, while the live stream chat exploded in odd comments. Yamato instead could not help feeling something cold starting to form in the pit of her stomach. The system hoped it was ulcer, but that was beside the point. A Chef Rebirth Chapter 8, Battle Against the Kings. Inoshiki Assault Arc Part 2. AU University, Between Lessons. Okay. 1 down. 4 to go, Momo said once checked the live stream of the cooking challenge I-Island hijacked from Yamato's control. Your boyfriend is really attacking a cooking school? Mina asked. Their 5 best students, their 4 best teachers and then their rector, a 3 Michelin star level chef. Yes, she answered. You did not deny the boyfriend thing. Jiro said, unsure. Because he is. He just got my father's blessing. Momo answered, a tiny smile surfacing on her face. No way. Mina yelled with wide eyes. Congratulations, Yamamoto. Toru squealed in happiness for her friend. No. At the same time Mineta was heard yelling from the back of the class while rushing towards Momo in tears. What is it to you? It's unfair. He doesn't even have a quirk. He doesn't deserve your tits or ass. I am a better man than that useless loser and I'll show you by plowing you until you love me. Let's fuck dash. Boom. The class became dead silent once seeing the classy and elegant Momo answer to that disgusting request by uprooting her desk from the floor to bash Mineta's skull with it hard enough to dig a perfect imprint of the boy's entire body on the concrete floor. I don't know what kind of sordid pornography you constantly drown yourself in, but there is not a single woman on this planet that can be converted to love by having sex with her, even less likely if against her will. Especially with a subhuman pervert like you. Drop this cuckolding crusade of yours for everything female in a 30 meters radius or I will personally see to it to have you neutered. I won't forgive your sexual harassment against me or my friends anymore, the young woman declared while repositioning her desk back down with a low thud. Had Izuku seen that, he would have understood why the system insisted in him enriching Momo's food in vitality and gourmet energy that much after the USJ incident, the other students though only saw an amazing feat of strength from somebody without a strength-related quirk, but any comment about it went forcefully put on hold once seeing the blood dripping from the desk right where it had almost split Mineta's skull open. Even Katsuki decided to not say a thing. Why yes, the boy managed to say before blissful unconsciousness mercifully embraced him. Jesus, Kaminari whispered. What happened? Ochako chose that moment to enter the class accompanied by Nimuri. She had been talking with the woman about her dubious feelings for her boss at her part-time job, and she still didn't have an answer to her dilemma. Not even knowing he was in a relationship with Momo already seemed to make her heart stop beating wildly when with him. Mineta finally got on Yamamo's nerves. He tried saying he was her ideal man and pretended to show it by demanding her to have sex with him, probably meaning right here and now, in front of the entire class. I think that's the gist of it. Toru answered, still a bit shaken. And that was all it took for you to somehow uproot a desk anchored on the floor with concrete to almost flatten him? Midnight asked. That and the sexual harassment me and my girlfriends are targeted with daily. Momo answered. And the panties thievery. Mina added. And his attempts to put cameras in our showers and locker rooms. So you said. And the crass jokes about any of us just missing out without sucking him off. Jiro said with a scowl of disgust. I am invisible, but he still tries to take pictures under my skirt. Toru said. I did find him sniffing my shoes after gym practice a couple of times, Ochako said with a small voice. I think I saw him take a couple of pictures of his penis right before asking us if we had the phone number of any of the girls. Luckily none of us actually gave him one. I managed to alert everybody just in time. Mizo admitted with a low, unsure tone of voice. Those are serious allegations. Why has nobody said anything before? Nimuri said, pinching the bridge of her nose and groaning. I don't know if it is a proper excuse, Professor, but at the beginning his jokes and mannerism were just tasteless and annoying, but nothing too extreme. We boys did ask the girls if they needed help in dealing with him and so we usually kept him grounded, then serious schoolwork started and none of us could spare enough time to keep him on a leash, shall we say. I fear that he then saw it as a green light of sorts to go all out and enjoy his depravity. Tenya said. Few of us also thought that sooner or later the teachers too would have started reining him in. Tokoyami added, sighing. Fucking unlikely. The midget thinks with his dick only. How I don't know since we boys shower together and I happen to see only misery down there, a bit of trivia I could have easily lived without gaining. Katsuki answered, scoffing. Even Bakubro had to take counseling rounds for his anger management. I thought Mineta was getting similar counseling for his libido. Kirishima admitted with a shrug. No, unfortunately he hasn't. But he will, if he really was that bad, but you all will need to testify and bring proof of his demeanor. Do broken hidden cameras, stolen socks and panties and blurry pictures clearly taken from unaware girls mid-changing do? Another teacher said from the door. Ectoplasm. One of my students found a hidden camera in her bedroom. We tracked the IP and power loader found out it connected with the laptop of one of your students. Once we entered his room we found a lot of trophies clearly stolen from female students of several classes of every year along stacks of pornography in clear violation of the campus rules. Where is Minoru-san? He's on the floor with a concussion. Namuri answered, groaning even louder. Who was it that smashed him? Ectoplasm asked. I did. He demanded that I have sex with him following some deranged fantasy of me falling madly in love with him. Thanks to that, Momo admitted. If they ask, I gave you a very harsh punishment followed by a lecture about excessive force. For this one time I say we let it slide as we teachers obviously had ignored a pervert harassing every girl in our school while hoping this mess would fix itself. Do not make it a habit, any of you. Yes, Professor, the entire class answered. Good. I'll take the little idiot to recovery girl, then we'll talk about his punishment, his future in UA if he will have a future here and very harsh counseling meetings that will start immediately after he recovers. We will curb this idiocy of his or he will die trying. The pro-hero answered before unceremoniously dragging Mineta away from the class. God damn it, I so do not need this. Namuri admitted with a groan. Sorry, teacher. Don't be, Yaoyorozu. It was partly our mistake as well, like you others, we too hoped he would have calmed down by himself. Whatever, let's focus on our lesson now. Yes. Ah. Did your friend win his little challenge, Yaoyorozu? He just defeated the first king, he will now go against the second, she answered, unsure. Good. Me and few others have a betting pool ongoing about that. I bet he would win every fight, and since I don't want to lose my paycheck, he better sweep the floor with them. Namuri answered, smirking. You have a bet about him? Shota and I have him as a total winner, same for Lunch Rush. Toshinori and Night Eye instead said he will win against everybody except the university rector, and Mike didn't think he will actually win against the first teacher. He did bet the most between us, so I think he is now very afraid of losing, she answered. TCH. Momo hissed in contempt. Something tells me Professor Mike dropped low in Yamamo's scoreboard. Mina muttered, smirking, and getting an amused snort in answer from Jiro sitting next to her. Yep. Meanwhile, Inoshiki Chef Academy, classroom. Yamato was still fuming for the defeat of the Meat King, the last of the top 5 students of Inoshiki University, while King number 4, Sadao, the Fish King, took position at the workplace at the opposite side of the room from Izuku at the front row of the class. The other kings were once again sitting next to the rector Yamato and her son in front of both contestants, but instead of aloof all of them looked tense since the old woman in a bout of anger had kicked out the Meat King as a punishment for his defeat. The next fight will be Midoriya Izuku versus Yumikage Sadao, the Fish King. Both contestants, are you ready? Minato, son of Yamato, asked once he saw both chefs finishing checking their instruments. Yes, both chefs answered. Good. Just like before, Chef Midoriya has left the choice of ingredients to us, and following Sadao's own request, we prepared this Pacific Sori. Minato said while taking out of a near fridge a wide tray covered by a cloth with Inoshiki insignia on it. Once removed, the class and Izuku saw a dozen shining fishes neatly put on display, all of them so fresh they looked like they had been just pulled out of the water an instant before the challenge. The fish all had a long body with dark green/blue cycloid scales on the dorsal side and silvery scales below. They also sported small, bright blue blotches distributed randomly on the sides. Their mouth was small, and there was a series of small finlets between the dorsal and anal fins. They also possessed a small forked tail. Wow! They are all so fresh. Izuku admitted in surprise. Got delivered this morning, barely an hour before your arrival, actually. For an instant we thought we would have had to postpone Sadao's own challenge until they arrived. Minato admitted with an uneasy smile. It would have been worth the wait, Mr. Minato, they are gorgeous. They will be our ingredients? Yup. We will use Pacific Sori as the main ingredient. Compared to Toshio, though, I am giving you the freedom to choose first which one to use. We can also use different side ingredients instead of the sori only. I want you to give your best, just like I will. Sadao showed her more bubbly personality while tying her ridiculously long hair in a ponytail so as to free her eyes from the long fringe normally covering them and fully displaying a pair of amazing eyes the color of pure emeralds. Thank you. Izuku answered, shy, but his eyes did turn extremely sharp once focused on the big display of ingredients in front of him, once again attracting the attention of a few other girls in the class. He looks so hot when focused, many thought while looking at him in newfound interest thanks to his show of worth after the defeat of the Meat King. They now knew he was not exactly a nobody. I will use these ones, he finally said once selected the still whole fish from the dozen Yamato prepared for the challenge. He actually chose some of the best ones. He really does have amazing eyes, Minato muttered, once again calling on himself his mother's ire. Good choice. I am glad to see you are not an amateur. Good coloring and state of the eyes, it means that we both choose the absolute freshest ones of the bunch. Sadao complimented him with a small clap while cutting a few pieces of parchment paper into squares. He instead covered his fishes with a finely grated spice mixture. Where did you get the sori? Now it's not exactly a good season for them, Izuku asked while he started mixing some dashi, traditional Japanese fish broth, with soy sauce, sake, sugar and some mirin, sweet and thick Japanese sake with low alcohol content, to slowly boil it into a thick sauce. He is making keishi sauce. Why? That is usually used for ramen and other noodle dishes. Yamato thought, confused, unaware that her precious kings too were having the same thoughts as her. In the meantime they all watched as the young chef also removed the fish's innards while keeping most of its fat aside. He then cooked with some extra virgin oil and wine vinegar to create a secondary sauce giving off a mesmerizing fish scent. He. Inoshiki Academy is special. We have our own personal ingredient providers. These sori are not exactly from around here. They come from a private breeding specialist overseas and were delivered by air this morning just for this challenge. Those guys have a very special breeding method, so we can have them perfectly plump whenever we want. Sadao answered. She instead was mixing butter with black pepper, garlic, parsley and thyme to create a dense and aromatic cream. Cool. But, hey! You two make your own herb butter? Izuku asked, impressed. Yufu. I like mine with just a bit more pepper than normal. I like strong tastes, she answered with a giggle and a wink. Nice. I usually make it with a bit less time. Do they know they are supposed to be enemies? The other students thought in dismay at Sadao's overly friendly attitude. Stop fraternizing and destroy him. Yamato shrieked in fury. You are starting to worry me, Mom. Minato admitted, sighing. Shut up. With Izuku. Why does our rector hate you? Sadao asked. I made a plate of rice that made a dear friend of hers feel inadequate. That's it? Yes. I still find this hatred she and her other friends have against me a bit overblown, but I don't pretend to understand what happens in the heads of egomaniacs. I am just defending myself, he admitted with a helpless shrug. In the meantime his sauce had evidently reached the right thickness as everybody saw him pull it off of the fire to let it cool down by itself while he focused on the fish proper. What did you use to season the sori? Sadao asked once to see him clean away the spice he had covered the fish with. Dried pimenta dioica fruit. I had some with me, luckily, since I could not see any in your spice cabinet. I would have been in trouble without it. Izuku answered. Pimento. You carry that stuff with you? King number 2 asked, confused. Not only allspice, I came full of other spices too. Izuku answered, briefly opening the jacket of his chef attire to show the 6 or so small jars of spices strapped in the inner area. I didn't know if you would have let me use your condiments, so I brought some along by myself. He then said. In truth he could easily retrieve every spice he needed from the system's dimensional storage, or whatever the name was, but just saying he had hidden pockets with spice jars inside was easier to explain compared to having access to the powers of an extra-dimensional entity. That's very paranoid, the dessert king admitted, taken aback. I am in enemy territory, I could not just wing it, the young chef answered while cutting some garden radish into cute little circular slices he then carved into small flowers. Is that overly detailed carving necessary? Minato asked. You tell me, isn't a good plate supposed to also be good looking? Eyes too play a part in the enjoyment of a dish. Either building a dish in a manner simple, complicated or minimalist, a chef should always put great care in the final product. Well said, the man answered, smiling pleased. Stop praising him, Minato. Yamato hissed between clenched teeth. Ha ha ha. You sound like a philosopher when you talk like that. Not a chef. Taste is important in a dish. Nothing else, Sadao countered, laughing in amusement while finishing preparing a few mussels, deveined shrimps and steamed clams she then added to the sori on top of the parchment paper. We agree to disagree then. But still, you are making quite the adorable cartoccio. Pot meets kettle, perhaps? Izuku answered. Blah. The girl replied by just pulling out her tongue. She then added cherry tomatoes and mushrooms to the seafood mix, and once topped each sori with a spoonful of her herb butter. She wrapped everything inside the parchment paper and moved the wrapped fishes in the oven. Done. What about you? She asked. Technically I am done too, the last part to finish my dish can be done just before serving, so I will wait for you to be done before getting through with it. In the meantime I will prepare a baby spinach sauce as a side dressing. Normally I would leave the spinach just steamed a bit so to use the leaves as a decoration, but if I don't do something to pass the time while we wait I will go insane. Izuku admitted. We can play cards if you want. It's okay, I'll keep myself occupied with the sauce, he answered, smiling gratefully. Okay, the other answered, more than happy to just whip out her phone to watch some funny videos online. That's it, it's official, she is physically unable to take anything seriously. Mako, King number 1, declared with a groan of disbelief. 20 minutes later. Ding! The sound of the egg-shaped alarm cut through the silent room like a searing hot blade, causing Sadao to almost drop her phone in surprise. Ready? Izuku asked while giving a last filtering to the baby spinach sauce to make sure it was extra smooth and free of lumps. Yes. This is my special Pacific Sori flavor bomb cartoccio. What about you? You done? She answered while opening the cartoccios and inundating the room in a pleasing scent of cooked fish. Holy shit! The scent of the sea, a student gasped in wonder while her nose greedily sniffed the air. That's the fish king for you. She is the greatest fish expert of them all. Second to Mako-sama herself by just a tiny margin, a boy answered, just as amazed. Wow! This smells great. Izuku admitted, impressed. Thank you. When the rector Yamato told us about your challenge I just knew I had to make this dish. Sori is among my favorite ingredients because it is just so versatile. And between cartoccio and aqua pazza, I knew this would be a killer. Sadao answered while decorating the cooked sori cartoccio with a slice of lemon each. Good to know. I was afraid I misread your intentions after all. Izuku admitted with a wide smile as he cut the sori he seasoned into thick slices he positioned on a wide plate in a flower-like shape. Then he used a brush to cover the pieces in a generous quantity of brown sauce before taking a burner and turning on its flame. What are you? Fwoosh! Many gasped in surprise at watching the green-haired chef mercilessly scorching his plates without a hint of fear, but many more turned shocked at the intense amazing scent the dishes started emanating once he was done with the burning. How the fuck does burning fish release this amazing scent? What joke is this? It matches the scent of Sadao's dish. How? Many usually use keishi for ramen and noodle dishes only, but that really is a multi-purpose seasoning that can be used in a myriad different recipes. It truly is a staple of Japanese cooking. And the right trick to use to make scorched carpaccio, isn't that right, Chef Izuku? Minato said with shining eyes and a smirk once seeing the young man give a rapid-fire bath to the sori carpaccio once finished brushing the sauce on the surface of all the plates he prepared. Ho ho ho. Correct. Even with a powerful burner like yours, burning the surface of fish in the proper way is difficult, but using keishi it becomes easy thanks to its sugar content. And it also acts as an insulator of sorts and protects the sori from most of the heat, preventing loss of freshness from the continued influx of heat since I only need to scorch the fish surface fat, not the meat inside. Izuku answered, smiling proudly at himself. Once satisfied with the scorching, he also added the sori fat dressing sauce and the baby spinach sauce on top and around the fish slices before topping everything with the flowers of radish. Scorched sori carpaccio, my dish is ready. Izuku declared once every plate was composed. This aroma. Sadao's dish is literally an explosion of flavor as the name implies, but Midoriya's own is just as strong, but instead focused like a blade. I wonder who between them complemented best the delicate taste of the Pacific sori. King 2 muttered with his eyes narrowed and focused fully on Izuku's face. Miss Yamato was right, that guy is a monster. We should not underestimate him, if he wins against Sadao-chan as well. Dessert King answered, thoughtful. Where does he come from? Knowing Miss Yamato, a talent like his would normally be something she would do everything to snatch, then why is he here as our enemy? Mako wondered with a low voice. You heard him, he dash. That is not a good enough excuse, there must be something else behind this, she interrupted the other girl with a hiss. We will proceed with the taste test. Sadao, you first. Yamato said once seeing both chefs deliver their plates to her, Minato and the other kings. Oh, my. It does look nice. Takeo, Vegetable King, admitted once pried open the fish meat with his chopsticks. Yes, she did an acceptable job, this time. Mako conceded, huffing. Tone it down a little, nobody likes frosty bitches, Mako-chan. Dessert King Michiko jokingly warned her. Mako-sama. We love you. Queen Mako. Many boys yelled in rapture at seeing the Soup King show a tiny sneer of annoyance. Except those guys, Michiko added, sighing. Focus. Yamato barked angrily, silencing the other kings while studying the wobbly piece of sori she grabbed from the plate. I must admit the cooking method chosen was excellent, it does put on display the natural taste of the Pacific sori. You also managed to control the natural oily feeling of its meat and diminish its intense fishy smell down to almost zero while leaving just enough to maintain the feeling of sea evoked by the scent. Good choice of supplementary ingredients too, the aqua pazza made with the mussels, shrimps and clams help supporting the main ingredient and are all a pleasure to eat, especially the steamed clams, that even if cooked in 2 different methods, remain pleasantly springy and flavorful. You gave your dish the perfect name, it's a real sea flavor bomb while remaining melty sweet and tender at the same time. Congratulations. Minato said with a pleased tone. I second the judgment. You used the Pacific sori almost perfectly, especially its thick meat. I could chew this forever and never get tired. Takeo confirmed with a dashing smile. Several girls swooned again, all for Izuku and the other king's chagrin. Sadao-chan is a bona fide fish expert, always a pleasure eating what she makes. Michiko added with a thumbs up. Good, it's good, but the ingredient was the Pacific sori, nothing else, you gave too much importance to everything else. The sori should have ruled supreme, it is still good though. Mako said, uninterested. Hey! Cheer up a little. What your friend made tastes amazing and it's also very nicely presented. Do not be a stick in the mud and enjoy it, this dish is good. Izuku answered, annoyed a little, he had already finished his portion and was not ashamed to show he liked it. Thank you, maybe in the end I did make it a bit cute too, other than good tasting. Sadao said with a mischievous smile while eating her own cartoccio. That you did. Izuku answered, smiling. Then this is obviously a win for Sadao. I am sorry, boy, but your defeat was a given. Get out and do not bother us anymore. Yamato said with an evil smile. What? She asked. Mom, you are becoming annoying, we have not even tried his dish yet. Minato said while massaging his forehead to push back the incoming migraine his mother caused. TCH. It's just some raw fish slightly burned with fire. You can't expect it to be better than, the old woman tried saying while despondently shoving a slice of the scorched carpaccio in her mouth, and growing unhealthy pale while her eyes bulged out. The sauce of Pacific soy innards. He prepared it just by adding oil and vinegar to the fish's fat and part of the innards, and yet the taste is permeating my tongue. And is making the sweetness of the fish meat stand out so much it's making me drown in its taste. Michiko admitted, shocked. How many spices did you use? Takeo asked, just as surprised. Only the pimento, or allspice. Depending on which name you want to use. Those Pacific soys were already good by themselves, adding more sounded like a waste, so I just tried enriching and polishing that flavor with a couple small pushes from the sauces and the spice. Izuku answered, shrugging. If Sadao created a bomb of flavor, yours was a single bullet from a sniper rifle, no waste, no fanfare and no collateral damages. One strike, one kill. Only pure Pacific soy flavor, marvelous. Minato admitted, clapping a little. Thank you. What do you think about it, Sadao sa-? Izuku's question died a messy death when he saw Sadao eat with zero manners her own portion of scorched carpaccio and even licking the plate over and over until it shone. Glad you liked it, he said, unsure. You are a lady, show some manners. Mako chastised her while mid-lick of her own plate. I give up, Takeo muttered in dismay while trying to ignore her. Cough. We will proceed with the vote, who do you think won? Minato asked, fake coughing to cover his own embarrassment. I vote for Midoriya, sorry. Takeo said, smiling uneasily. It's okay, take Chan. I'll do better next time. Sadao reassured him with a thumbs up. I vote for Sadao-chan. Michiko said with a wink. Thank you. Midoriya, at least he used the Pacific soy only. Mako said. You are a picky eater. Sadao answered, pouting. I will have to vote for Midoriya as well, my apologies, but I must recognize the ability needed to bring out such amazing flavor with so little ingredients. Minato said with a sorry expression. No harm done, sir. I loved it too. Yamato-san? Sadao asked. Get out of my school, the old woman answered with a low, defeated voice. Go back to your seat, Sadao. You are still a student here. Minato subverted the order. Silence. You are already giving a sad spectacle. Don't think I won't rein you in just because you are my mother, the man roared, shocking his mother. But. I am saving you from yourself. Sadao gave her best and that's all that matters. She is still a first-year student, she can still get a lot better if you give her a chance. Wasting talent just to appease your tantrums won't help nobody, not them and especially not you. Now calm down and be a proper, professional chef, or else I will take over and select a new judge to take your place. Minato said with narrowed eyes. Okay, Yamato conceded with a small voice, her body losing every ounce of fight she had at the beginning. Good, I will still keep you grounded, because I know you are not a bully, but a great chef, and I want to preserve that part of you. Michiko, you are next, are you ready? He asked. Of course. I need to avenge Sadao-chan, the short girl answered. My hero. Sadao answered with an exaggerated swoon while retaking her seat next to Takeo. Once delivered one of her knives to Izuku with her name written along the blade with a permanent marker. She also added a cute little heart next to it, apparently a fixed part of her signature. That guy is tearing through us like a tank. Takeo muttered with a low whisper and his eyes fixed on the wooden cabinet Izuku brought along, now containing 2 knives belonging to their fellow kings. This time Miss Yamato tickled a dragon's nose once too many times, and now we have to deal with the catastrophe. Mako answered. I will use my secret weapon, you? He asked. Me too, conventional dishes won't cut it this time. Flavor demon. As you said, he deserves our worst, molecular devil. Takeo answered, eyes narrowed. Very well, we'll have a 10 minutes pause to clean everything and let young Midoriya catch his breath a little. Minato declared, nor he or anybody else heard what Takeo and Mako said. No need to worry, but I will use these 10 minutes to recover an ingredient for my dessert dish, since I can see apples being washed and prepared to be our chosen ingredient. Izuku answered with a grateful smile. Something we can get for you? No. I have those already ready back to my place, he answered before motioning Whitey to come closer. Host, the robot asked. I need, what the young chef whispered to the robot, nobody heard, but they all saw the big chubby robot scratch his round bald head with one of his big hands before nodding. Understood. Whitey answered, before opening the door of the classroom and... Boom! Terra knew one to the sound barrier while running to the Green Cloud restaurant and back in the 10 minutes of pause Minato gave him and carrying a small jar of dull glass. Perfect. Thank you. Izuku said with a grateful tone. That thing ran back and forth between here and your personal kitchen in 10 minutes? Where do you live? Yavin Street. At the opposite side of the city? Whitey is very fast. Izuku answered, smirking. Even too much. In truth, Whitey only covered half the distance before the system summoned the glass jar in his hands. Izuku insisted on secrecy, so this little lie had to be organized. I am eager to see what you will come up with, but rest assured that it will still be useless. Your defeat will be sweet though, so don't feel too bad. The bold claim came from Michiko as soon as she started slowly preparing a pot filled to the brim in boiling caramel. I admit I am not exactly a dessert-oriented chef, I prefer to branch out as much as I can and cook following as many different styles possible, but this doesn't mean I won't give my all, he answered. Good. Because I want to smash that smile of yours into dust, the Dessert King answered as she took out more plates and pots. Hn? Izuku uttered, confused. Watch and be amazed. I will now prepare a cheese mousse, apple jelly, blue cheese cream and a sponge cake made with crushed walnuts. At the same time, the short girl declared with a crazed smile. How do you plan to do all that, alone? The young chef asked. By going all out, you quirkless loser, she answered while throwing away her own bandana and unfolding the tentacles on her head. To everybody's shock, Michiko's tentacle hair then sprang to life and divided into two groups. 6 held a plate each while the others held the utensils, meaning that together with her own hands, she could prepare 7 different parts of her dish at the same time. A duo of tentacles was already boiling the apples for the jelly, another was holding up a pestle to crush the walnuts they will then mix with eggs, 2 were expertly preparing a pot full of matcha green tea leaves she will soon put to boiling while others were mixing the 2 kinds of cheese until each turned into a fluffy cream. Michiko herself instead was mixing cranberry juice with gelatin to create a cranberry nappage. Nappage is a kind of glazing used when preparing sweets. This is my secret technique. The 7-in-1 cooking frenzy. Michiko said with a maniacal laughter. There it is. They say she can challenge an entire team by herself thanks to her quirk, a student gasped in awe. So you all have decided to leave behind any sense of decency and will start using your quirk? Fair enough. Izuku answered with a tone of disappointment. Why should they limit themselves? It's not their fault if you don't have one. Yamato answered, happy to ridicule him. As you wish, if that's how you see things, I have all the more reasons to wipe that smirk off your face, the young chef said, giving a twirl of the knife in his hand and swaying. With the loud and sharp sound of a blade cutting through air, his hand became a blur that moved in a straight line through the apples still untouched in front of him. Plop! 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 And one after another, every fruit lost its peel in an instant and got sliced into perfectly identical slices thin as a hair while a small amount of extra thin apple peel appeared right next to Izuku. Astounded silence fell in the room as Yamato's mouth hung slightly open. I don't like quirkists as I believe people's value is not measured on the power of their quirk, but in the strength of their beliefs, and if I have to fight everybody in order to teach you fools a lesson, then so be it. Chichoy. What happened? Sadao asked with a shriek. He peeled and cut all those apples at the same time, with just one swing, Takeo answered, unsure. That is impossible. Do you know how many laws of physics would need to be ignored for that to happen? Mako answered. Will host start infusing gourmet energy in his dishes? The system asked. No need. I didn't do it before, and I won't do it now either. I will just up the level of skills I will show. Izuku answered, it was a matter of principles. If he used that power to increase the flavor of his dishes, then he wouldn't be different from somebody using their quirk, and the challenge originally stated that no powers were to be used. Sure, it was an unspoken rule, but that didn't change its value. While Michiko was finishing her outrageous preparation of several ingredients at once, the young chef had instead just reached the final stage of his kneading of two different kinds of dough he had mixed by hand. He was in fact giving the last slaps to the smaller ball of dough of the two. Both finished spheres were whitish in color and almost unnaturally smooth, looking more similar to balls of marble than actual food. The first part is done, now I need to add my secret weapon to both and knead them again, Izuku muttered with a shaken breath. He made both bread dough and tart dough, what is he planning to do? Michiko muttered with narrowed eyes, and watched with bated breath as he finally used the mysterious jar he sent his robot bodyguard to recover. Pop! Whoosh! When the young chef opened the jar, there was no apparent scent coming out of it, but then he poured a minuscule deep red drop of liquid from it into the two types of dough he was kneading, and an explosion of aroma washed over the entire room with every student standing rooted on the spot. The boys only felt an amazingly sweet flower scent assault them, but the girls had another reaction altogether. Roses, one girl squealed, as she unknowingly had the same daydream of her friends. Each girl saw herself as the main character of a fairy tale, a princess standing on a long path of white cobblestone with at both sides an endless field of red roses cut in half by that small road, red petals flying everywhere around them bringing along the flower's delicate scent, and at the opposite end of the pure white path there was their Prince Charming flashing a heart-melting smile and wearing a majestic silver armor, with his hands stretched out as if beckoning them to reach him. Momo would also be miffed to death at knowing how quite a few of those girls were also unashamedly putting Izuku in the role of the Prince Charming. Rose essence. And one so strong. If he is not careful, that much aroma will make everything inedible. Minato muttered, surprised. How can you make a rose extract so strong? Michiko asked with wide eyes. Secret recipe. Izuku answered, unconcerned, too focused on preparing the dough properly to summon enough brain power to properly answer or even just look at her. With the rose extract provided by the system, Izuku needed to focus fully on the quantity and flavor distribution, because it was not normal rose extract one could ideally make home or buy. This one had been purified by him using his knowledge as Zaus and the system's own help. A serum purified enough times it was now 99% pure, any misstep would be a catastrophe. Just a spoonful contained the essence of several hectares of red roses, he had to be careful. At the same time he added some rose extract to a big pot of water as well and soaked the apple slices together with some extract from the apple peels, and left the slices to rest untouched to the side before returning to focus on the dough. Slap! 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 The scented balls of dough were then continuously slapped and kneaded until they all became faintly pink and utterly smooth spheres, done so that he simply kept them neatly separated in smaller parts on a side. Now, the rest of the apples, once satisfied with that, Izuku started to simmer some of the remaining apples with apple cider vinegar and water, and once turned them into a cream, he added normal butter and tirelessly mixed everything until perfectly fused together. Apple butter and apple confiture, can he really balance both roses and apples in a single dish? Minato muttered while studying every movement of Izuku. Creating pure rose extract with that level of aroma is already ridiculously hard, but actually managing to slowly soak that rose flavor into the apple slices in the right amount, together with the extra apple flavor from the apple peel extract to reach the right balance, is even more insanely difficult. Where does this brat come from? Yamato thought in anger while biting down one of her nails. Her own bloodshot eyes were fixated on Izuku's. And a tiny feeling of fear of the boy started blooming in her heart. With Michiko the dessert king. Damn it! That thing is a scent bomb. But there is no need to worry, he is using 2 ingredients only, I am using 8, the young woman thought while creating small discs of sponge cake batter. She then moved into the oven to cook. You may use the young scent of roses, but I will use the nostalgic taste of autumn. Let's see which one will come out as the winner, she declared. So it will be spring, youth vs autumn, maturity? Okay, I accept the challenge. Izuku answered. You will regret challenging me, quirkless. Michiko muttered darkly. Sometime later. As soon as the dessert king saw her sponge cake turning golden in color, she took the discs out of the oven and rapidly cooled them down, and then giving the final touches to her side ingredients, like the extra leaves of matcha green tea she was powdering at high speed thanks to her hair tentacles handling extra knives. Her dessert is clearly not simple. Minato muttered, impressed. She is preparing her infamous autumn leaf viewing entremet, the dish that cemented her position as the dessert king here in this school. Yamato answered. Oh. She is going all out as well, the vegetable king muttered. I am glad to see she is taking this seriously at least. Meiko answered. You know she hates being challenged, it was a given she would not show mercy. If her self-esteem is frail as glass, it's her fault only, the young woman answered. Uninterested in the judge's scrutinizing stares, Michiko had finally started assembling her dish, using the sponge cake discs as the middle layer while carefully creating several layers above and under it with the various cheese creams and fruit jellies she made previously until a vaguely spherical shape was created. She then covered the whole thing with the cranberry gelatin to turn it in a perfectly smooth red sphere as big as a golf ball. Finally done. Get ready to lose, quirkless, the girl declared with a mocking tone while preparing a few more spheres. She then moved to the fridge. Ah! If all your insults revolve around my lack of quirk, sorry, but you won't go far in making me feel under pressure. Izuku answered while shaking his head. TCH. While ignoring the fuming short girl brushing her caramel on an anti-adherent sheet of parchment paper to create thin perfectly transparent shards, Izuku took note that the apple butter was finally ready along the apple slices having been soaked in the scented water long enough to satisfy the green-haired chef's requirements for his own dish. Achin. The tiny, satisfied grunt escaping his throat almost managed to freeze Michiko's blood in her veins. What? She asked. Just that time's up and I too can now finally build my dish, the young man answered with an adorable eager smile while first collecting several spheres of rose-scented bread dough to knead them back into a single, bigger blob to which he then added part of the apple butter too. First, the basket, he then said while pinching the giant ball and pulling aside a long string of it while twirling it gently between his pointer and thumb. Swish! 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 What the students behind him cried in shock as they watched the young chef pick up insane speed once again to create dozens of finger-thick strands of dough. He then started waving together to create an actual basket with a twirly handle arching above it, and no matter the intricate design, he was building it so fast many felt dizzy by looking at him. Done the basket, the tarts, done with the creation and decoration of the basket, the following move was building the base of the desserts, tiny cup-shaped empty tarts, those two made at ludicrous speed. And, in the oven. Izuku said while carefully putting the basket and the empty tarts inside the oven to cook. I wonder if the apples, yep. Perfect. He then said once given a taste test to the soaked apple slices, now dyed into an eye-catching pink color, and since he was evidently satisfied with the results, he carefully removed them from the aroma bath to dry them. I have no idea what you are doing, B, but I'm not afraid of you. Michiko said while pointing an accusing finger at him. Good. I am not here to scare anybody. Izuku answered with a happy smile. And my dessert will soon be ready. Then we'll see who is the winner, she answered. Of course, he replied with a thumbs up. Sometime later. Ding! 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 As if it was planned ahead, the kitchen timer Michiko had set for her dessert in the freezer rang just a minute before Izuku's own for the oven, signaling both were now in the final leg of their challenge. You can do it, Dessert King, the students cheered for her. Dessert King! Dessert King! Dessert King! She will win this. Emboldened by the loud cheering, Michiko positioned a sphere in the middle of each plate. She then decorated with a tiny pinch of the powdered matcha green tea leaves and 2 wings of caramel shards at both sides of the shining red spheres. She had even created small maple leaves with some remaining sponge cake she had then positioned around the plate. Closing the dish, there was a warm cup of green tea as a side drink for the dessert. Done. You are finest dash. Swoosh. Michiko's taunt she tried delivering once finished assembling her dish went interrupted by Izuku's hands once more moving fast enough to disappear as he started grabbing the apple slices one by one with a duo of pliers to build the tarts after he used a brush to paint the inside of the empty tarts with the apple butter and then the apple confiture. She is screwed, a boy blurted out in dismay as a rose bloomed inside each tart, and not just a rose-like shape, but a perfect replica of a big rose made with thin pink apple slices recreating the flower's petals with ludicrous precision of details. A couple minutes in the oven to make the apple slices extra crunchy, and the tarts are ready. Izuku declared while moving the tarts back in the oven after brushing some apple peel essence on top of them. What came out of that oven once done that bombarded the students and judges in the sweet scent of cooked apples and the alluring fragrance of roses, the insane balance of the 2 scents though worried Yamato. She once again saw Izuku thread on the thin line between success and failure without a hint of doubts in his steps, and the tiny feeling of fear in her own chest grew a tad bit more. Here is my dish. A bit on the feminine side, but nothing says that I can't make a cute dish if I feel like it. Queen apple tart, with damask rose aroma. Thank you for waiting. Izuku declared as he walked towards the judges by actually grabbing onto the basket's handle and using 2 long pliers to deliver a small tart to each one of them. By the way, the basket too is edible, it's made with fragrant apple and rose bread. I have put aside some extra apple confiture if you want to add it to the basket bread, he then added, with a more cheeky smile. To put both rose aroma and apple butter into the bread, the required balance of quantities to make sure the bread won't break down and still be flavorful would need to be calculated down to the micrograms. Did you really have to risk it so much? Mako asked. You want me to lose, I want to win. I have too much to lose from this challenge, so I can't hold back, but be ready to bet all of myself at every step. Izuku answered, sighing. We'll start with Michiko's dish since she finished first. Yamato decided. Please help yourself, the dessert king answered with a cocky smile. Nothing for me. Izuku asked, honestly hurt. Sorry, but I don't expect you to have the right palate to truly enjoy it, so I prefer to not waste ingredients, she answered, huffing. Host? Whitey asked, and even his normally robotic voice sounded annoyed, somehow. No, Whitey. Down. Izuku ordered while shaking his head a little. Look at the cross-section. Simply perfect. Yamato was heard exclaiming with a proud voice. The red sphere dessert in her plate had been cut cleanly enough one could still see the various layers of the different creams and sponge cake forming the inside of the dish, all neatly separated without even the smallest smudge. The sponge cake is incredibly soft, like a cloud, and even its positioning is not casual. By forming the middle of the dessert it can perfectly mix with every other taste used. You did study the position of each layer, isn't it? Minato asked, very impressed. Correct. I spent an entire year experimenting with both position and thickness of every layer, even their density is not a chance. I tested over and over every possible combination to make sure every layer of taste would mix with the others to perfection when bitten. Nothing is left to chance. Michiko answered, her smirk reeking of smugness. It shows. Even such a strong cheese like gorgonzola has been carefully nestled between the apple jelly and the sponge cake, you can almost tell every taste apart at each bite. Well done. Minato declared. And it goes well with green tea, even if I am not exactly a tea person. Takeo added, taking a sip of tea every few bites of dessert. Fine. I admit it, it makes you taste the autumn. Happy? Mako admitted, annoyed. You know I don't have a fondness for sweets, but you're always a good exception, I love it. Sadao the Fish King said. Thank you. What about you? Michiko answered. Besides saying you have a wonderful technique, I can't say more since I have not tasted it. Izuku answered with a shrug. Then be born with a quirk in the next life, she countered, smirking. Be thankful I was born a gentleman still, many of my old acquaintances would have kicked your teeth in a long time ago with that attitude. Zebra would have directly eaten you alive. Izuku answered with an annoyed sigh as even his legendary cinnamon bun patience was starting to run thin under her constant verbal onslaught. TCH. You don't scare me. It was an extremely good dish. Now we will proceed with the tasting of Chef Izuku's dish. Yamato declared. Said that, every judge grabbed the tart from their respective plates and took away a piece of the basket handle along with a bit of apple confiture, and judging by Minato, Sadao, and Mako's expression, the three of them actually found it a pity to break apart such a cute bread basket. Sigh. Here, Izuku begrudgingly handed a rose tart to Michiko himself. Blah. Take that thing out of my sight, I won't eat that, she answered with a scrunched nose. Sucks to be you. Well, to our challenge. And to your future as a lonely old woman surrounded by cats, he answered while eating the thing himself. Ichiwai, the girl growled back in answer. Crunch. Holy hell. Takeo the vegetable king yelled in amazement once given a big bite to the tart. Boo-hoo, the dessert king gurgled out in surprise. Judging by your reaction, it's good, the soup king asked. Damn amazing, it feels like biting a very juicy apple while sitting next to a rose bush, it's sweet and almost refreshing. Takeo answered, still chewing with a big smile on his face. I see, the young woman answered while giving a big bite to her own rose tart. Mako? Takeo asked, worried at her petrified expression. Ag, the onlookers knew people were not supposed to clench their legs that hard while eating, but the king number one did look like she had a damn big O at eating that dessert, no matter how insane that sounded. Right, you and I both have a very sensible palate, should have warned you, the vegetable king admitted with a grimace. Ah! This is so nice. And this dessert too goes well with your green tea, Michiko-chan. Sadao admitted while shamelessly gorging herself without a shred of manners. Yes, it's good. At the same time they heard Yamato admit that with enough pain in her voice she scared them. When you bring one to your mouth, the first thing you feel is the sweet and delicate aroma of roses, but then you bit into it and you get submerged into a sea of apple fragrance and taste, from the crunchy and sweet petals of the rose to the homely feeling of butter and confiture of the filling. He put in there just a thin layer of both, but those two together with the crisp tart dough base fit each other like a dream. The rose scent and faint taste stimulate the nose and relax the spirit, while the apple taste massages the mouth and warms the body. It's unreal, Minato admitted while studying the half-eaten tart in his hand. The secret is in the balance of taste, as you said. My rose extract has a strong scent and even stronger taste, so redistributing that immense concentration of flavor everywhere equally is a real pain, but once done properly, it is simply amazing. Izuku admitted, sheepish. The damn basket is tasty too, alone it has the subtle taste of cooked apples and fresh butter, but if you add the apple confiture to it becomes a knockout punch of apple taste I can't get enough of. Do I also feel a twinge of cinnamon in it? Takeo said with narrowed eyes. Just a bit, I added that to the confiture along with a tiny amount of lemon peel. Correct. Izuku answered. Impressive, the vegetable king was forced to admit with a groan. What? The dessert king demanded with a frown. I don't know how to say this, the second king admitted with a low tone. Wah. I am sorry, Michiko-chan, I know you voted for me before, but, Sadao admitted with an ashamed expression. You two are too soft. A defeat is a defeat, we should not sugarcoat it, we have our pride as future chefs to defend. Mako chastised both with a huff, clearly unafraid of casting her vote for the winner. No, the dessert king whispered, horrified. You are amazing, Miss Hideyoshi, so at least my vote is for you, even just for the complexity of the dish itself. Minato offered with a kind, albeit uneasy, smile. Yamato instead simply stood in silence and avoided meeting the king's eyes at all cost. No! I can't accept it. Michiko roared in defiance. Ah! Izuku uttered in confusion. You can't win this time too. I won't accept it. You just made a tart. I had to come up with a method to make a layered dessert of different tastes while making it as small as a golf ball. I refuse to be defeated by a sloppily made cheap dessert, the short girl yelled. Sloppily made, you say? Izuku asked, eyes narrowed. Yes. Everybody here can make that dessert. I am the genius here. I am the prodigy of dessert making. Not a quirkless nobody like you. A tense silence fell into the room. Troublemaker. You will be dash. Stop, Whitey. There is no need, here, taste this. Just a drop. Izuku answered, unfazed, while handing her the jar of rose extract he used. Boo-hoo. This was my secret weapon, taste it raw and tell me if you would have been able to handle it like I did, he asked. Fine, she answered. Just a drop. Yeah. Michiko answered while pouring a single drop of the rose extract inside her mouth. Sweet. Sweet, sweet. Roses, sweet, 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 sweet. Sweet, 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 sweet. Roses. Sweet, sweet, roses, sweet, 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 roses, sweet, sweet. Sweet, 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 sweet. Roses. Sweet, 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 roses, sweet, 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 roses. Sweet, 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 roses, sweet, sweet, roses. Sweet, 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 sweet. Roses. Sweet, 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 roses, sweet, 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 sweet. Wah. The dessert king could barely reach the classroom garbage bin in time before vomiting, and heaving heavily for a couple of seconds while hugging the thing with all her strength, all the while hiccuping non-stop. Michiko! Sadao yelled while running at her side to gently rub her back. So? Can you use that to make a tasty dessert? Can you handle its intense flavor to make something edible? Something good? Don't look down on me just because I am a quirkless. Izuku was heard saying with a grave tone while grabbing one of her knives and handing it to her. I take cooking very seriously, as it is the only field where I know I can put you all elitists in your place and stand toe-to-toe with you. A mutation won't automatically make you a better chef, never. It takes hard work to be good, he declared. Your name on the blade, please. Your name. Tears started falling from her eyes. Michiko. Hic. I can't lose against a quirkless. You people are inferior, she answered while crying. Sigh. Forget it, you elite are hopeless, the young chef answered with a sigh while writing Michiko's name on the blade himself and putting it with the other two inside the cabinet. That's mine. Michiko-chan, please. Sadao begged with a sad expression. No. My mom always says that a quirk makes us special. Like gods. He should just go die in a ditch somewhere. There is no place for quirkless in this world, the girl raved madly, forgetting that there was a live stream ongoing and that many were growing more disgusted the longer she talked like that. And the live chat soon filled in insults aimed at her. I can't believe there is somebody so bitter like you around. Kind of ironic since you are an expert in dessert, Izuku said with a sad smile. Shut up. Give me back my knife. I won. Not you. Michiko yelled while making her hair tentacles snap forward to grab Izuku. Clamp. KYH, the short girl though shrieked in pain as soon as Whitey intercepted the attack and his big hand grabbed the tentacles to lift her from the floor. Troublemaker, cease the attack or you will be stripped as an example to others, the robot ordered with his round eyes shining in an eerie red light. Many also shrieked in fright at the sight and the strange threat the big chubby robot delivered with his thundering monotonous voice. "Fight me yourself, coward!" Michiko shrieked. "Take your damn knife, I don't need it to know I won. But try to grow up already, you are 20, not 5. Izuku simply answered with a sigh, and put the knife back on her workstation while shaking his head. Get back to your seat, Michiko. You already ashamed yourself and our school enough, and I am not talking about you losing." Surprisingly, it was Yamato who silenced the girl as soon as the robot dropped her. "But Rector Yama I said to be quiet and sit down, child. Now!" The woman roared, and Izuku finally saw the woman's quirk when a long prehensile tail with an actual human hand at the end of it whipped out from behind the old woman to grab the Dessert King and slam her on her seat. "Yes. Take her knife, Midoriya. A deal is a deal, she lost fair and square," the old woman said with a heavy sigh. "Why do you hate me so much, Yamato-san?" Izuku asked, saddened. "Personally, I have nothing against you. There is not even quirkism or the like behind it, I swear. But me and the others, together with Samui, go way back, all the way back to middle school. We are a tight-knit group of friends, and since one of us needed help in dealing with you, we all grouped together to avenge him. Sorry, but between you and Samui, I will stay by his side. If you want me to step back and stop bothering you as you said I was doing, then you will have to win this challenge of yours, and it won't be easy," she answered. "I am ready." "Good, because neither I, or my students, or my teachers will show mercy. I never asked for it, I just want to be left alone, I never had anything against you. I am just defending myself." "Fair enough. Takeo, you are up next. Defeat him, please," Yamato asked, sounding exceptionally tired all of a sudden. "Yes, madam," the Vegetable King answered while stepping forward. "Want to know why you lost?" Mako asked. "Who?" Michiko, still crying, muttered. "Here, try it." Mako explained while handing her a tart. Crunch. Oh, the Dessert King muttered in surprise once tried it. "You used a lot of ingredients, and while it is exemplar that you could mix them all together in a very ingenious way to make an astounding dessert, the main ingredient, the apples, were just a small part of it. He instead used only apples and roses, and even then, the apples were still the main protagonist of the whole thing, and he cooked them in different ways too, in the bread, in the butter, as a confiture and soaked in flavorful water. He gave apples facets, and all of them worked splendidly together once he made them fit in place," the young woman explained. I see," the Dessert King muttered, sniffling. "And judging by your puking fit, he was also very skilled in turning a flavor bomb of roses into a frame to enrich the apple taste. Don't remind me, I had to rinse my tongue a lot to relieve myself of the taste. I have no clue how he managed to handle that thing like he did." Michiko answered, gagging. "Glad to see you understand. Have no fear, though, the next match will be his last. Takeo will use his secret weapon," Mako declared, enjoying the look of horror flashing on the Desert King's face at her words. "Both of you are ready?" Minato asked after the working station had been fully cleaned. "Yes," both young men answered together. "Good, you can start whenever you are ready." "I am ready." "Choose your ingredients, Takeo-san," Izuku said. "We'll use beef as the main ingredient." "Your small war against Inoshiki Academy ends now," the other answered with a dark tone. "Beef?" Izuku muttered, confused as to why the so-called Vegetable King chose meat for their fight. "I see. Good job, Takeo. The boy is finished." Yamato instead understood what her student was doing, and her smile turned into a fearsome mask of putrid malevolence. Chapter 9, The Terrifying True Power of the Vegetable and Soup Kings. Inoshiki Assault Arc Part 3. UA University, Cafeteria. While the students were happily gorging themselves, with more than a few actually following the live stream showing Izuku's ongoing massacre of Inoshiki Academy's best students at the same time, the university's boss Nizu was showing the school's own chef a collection of video snippets both from the challenge itself and from the database the guys from I-Island felt generous enough to share with the Rat Bear Man Chimera. The chef pro hero Lunch Rush silently watched each and every video in silence, sometimes rewinding back whenever a particular scene attracted his interest. So? What's your verdict? Nizu asked once given to the pro hero what he felt was enough time to study the videos. In answer Lunch Rush removed the tube from the gas mask-like mask he was wearing to talk with a whisper of voice. I want to meet him, he said while returning the phone to Nizu. I can try to make him come here if you want, the other answered. A thumbs up was all the answer the pro hero gave. Do tell me, though. Could you replicate what he does? If I cut an ingredient, they die, I can't make living skeletons. Yes, that food honor thing is kind of a middle finger to the laws of nature. What about the rest? Hard to say. He is holding back. I can tell, the hero answered, and his reconnecting the tube to his mask meant he had already talked enough. Okay. Sign language it is then. Nizu muttered with a groan. You know why I do this. Lunch Rush signed with a shrug. I know. You said the boy is holding back, can you guess how much he is hiding? Nizu asked, sighing. Hard to say, I can give you a wild guess based on personal experience. The pro hero took a moment to think, then his hands moved like a flash to give his answer. It would still be a start, the Ratman Chimera conceded with a sigh. This is a normal chef. One of the kids he is fighting with, for example, the pro hero said while filling a teacup with water. Okay. This one is that old woman, Yamato. Lunch Rush then said, filling a big pot in several liters of water. Okay. Nizu muttered, unsure. This is your boy. The pro hero then simply opened the kitchen faucet and let water run in the sink without putting in the cap. Lunch. A minute, the pro hero signed. The water just kept running. There. This should be a good estimate, but I may be wrong and the kid could be better still, the pro hero said once finally closed the faucet. I see, and where would you put yourself compared to him? Nizu asked, unsure. I don't know, that is why I want to meet him. Sigh. I'll see what I can do. Nizu answered, sighing. If Recovery Girl asks, I called dibs before her. Lunch Rush added. Over my dead body, you idiot, the short woman roared once barged inside, showing clearly she was spying on them. He cooks well, I can make him shine, the chef pro hero signed with a growl, his hands were moving fast enough to put a ninja from Naruto to shame. His dishes heal people. I want to study him. Recovery Girl hissed back in answer. You are just jealous he healed Toshinori while you couldn't. Jealous? Jealous. I am not jealous, you, walking food dispenser. Gasp. There they go again, Nizu muttered with a groan. While this was happening, a bit of drama was also taking place at one of the tables in the cafeteria, in the section housing the tables of the older students. Then marry him if you like him that much. We are done. Finished, the full conversation had been missed by everybody in the cacophony of the every student there either eating or talking, but all of them saw the tail end of the duo's quarrel, because it was not every day they saw somebody ever smiling like Nijire Hadu roar like a furious beast before storming out of the university in tears. Mirio, with his head still dripping broth from the big plate of ramen the young woman emptied on his head at the apex of her heartbroken rage, merely sighed and removed plate and noodles from his hair without saying a word. You fucked up, his childhood friend, Tamaki, muttered with his head glued to the tabletop, and barely moving his head to the side enough to avoid the puddle of broth now drenching his friend and his section of the table. She will come around. She will understand that I am doing this for the well-being of everybody. Mirio answered with a new sigh. I think she is tired of waiting for you. Tamaki muttered. She will come around, she will come around. Mirio answered, maybe more to reassure himself than his friend, though. If you say so. All Might's legacy is too important. If my body hurts so much while using his quirk, it means I am not strong enough yet. I need to train hard, Nijire. Just be patient, I need to put you aside only for a little while. Once sure I will be worthy of being All Might's successor, I will return to you. Just wait for me. Mirio thought in determination. Meanwhile, Inoshiki Chef Academy, classroom. I may understand using beef as our ingredient considering how versatile it is, but are you really sure you also want to use so many artichokes with it? Izuku asked, looking on curiously at the insane amount of artichokes the vegetable king was cleaning and preparing. Izuku had expected a vegan-style recipe from the young man, considering his title as the vegetable king, but instead Takeo had surprised him by choosing beef as the main ingredient and then starting to clean way too many artichokes to use with it. He could tell there was some serious smell of bullshit coming from the guy now. Of course. You see, I understand where Sadao and Michiko went wrong. You played on the sole main ingredient's strength every time while they added other ingredients as a support to their main one, with the final result of it being overshadowed. Either the apples or the sori could have worked perfectly well alone, like you showed, but in their haste to show off and suppress you instead, they failed to fully grasp the very ingredient they personally choose, like you instead did. I plan to unleash the full power of artichokes on you instead, and I need some good beef to properly do it. Both will be the key to your defeat, the second king answered, while still cleaning more artichokes and only using their heart to cook. Then why did you not choose artichokes as the challenge theme? He asked, confused. That's a secret. Takeo answered with a wink, making the girls in the class swoon hard. Izuku instead merely looked at the vegetable king with narrowed eyes and a thoughtful expression. That sounded like an insult to my skills. Sadao said with a whine. I am just saying yours was a big oversight. You just didn't have the right focus on your chosen theme, that's all. Takeo answered, smiling sheepish. Toshio actually did things properly and used bear meat only, he just wasn't able to match his tricks. Mako, Soup King, added with a huff. I just followed the rules. I was given an ingredient and I used it the best I could. You make it sound like I cheated. Izuku answered, appalled. Nobody said you cheated, Midoriya. Relax. Yamato answered, rolling her eyes. What? The woman asked. You defended him, her son, Minato, muttered in shock. I am not a broken record, Minato, I can have mixed opinions about somebody, she answered. So you dash. I want him broken and defeated, but I can also recognize his skills. The two things are not mutually exclusive. Now I recognize you. Minato answered, sighing in dismay. With Izuku using so many artichokes, I see, there seemed to be a strange flash in the green-haired chef's eyes, as if witnessing a memory of his past being reenacted a second time. Ah! Takeo muttered in confusion as his enemy discarded the ingredients he had chosen before for a new batch. I am switching recipes, I hope you don't mind. Izuku muttered while creating a small mound of flour he then emptied in the middle to form a volcano-like shape. Is he? Minato muttered with wide eyes. Pizza apa! Sadao squealed loudly in excitement as the flour soon turned into dough. Izuku then started to masterfully spin it around, slap on his workstation and then flatten and spin around again above his head at ludicrous speed. You want to defeat my roast beef, with pizza? Takeo asked. You focus on boiling those artichokes and adding lemon juice to not make them lose color, I will deal with my own dish by myself. Izuku replied with a cheeky smile. TCH. Done with the kneading and twirling, Izuku once more flattened the dough into a thin circle. He moved aside to rest so as to shift his full attention to his own cut of beef, to the ginger and the onions he had chosen as new ingredients. Swaying. Once again ignoring what was and what was not possible for a quirkless human to do, the young chef gave a single slice that instead cut beef, ginger and onions into slices of exactly the same thickness, at the same time, 1/2 inch wide stripes for the meat, human hair thin slices for the vegetables. A big skillet was then put on the fire, inside some oil and the ginger that was cooked until fragrant. The beef and the onions were then added and cooked until both turned a pleasant brownish color, with the smell produced already embracing the nose of the people present. "Dom, this smells nice," a girl from the back admitted in awe. "He is simmering all that? Is he making beef shigurine as a topping?" Mako muttered, uncertain. "Toshio's meat expertise would have helped a lot now," Sadao admitted, sighing. Satisfied with the meat's state of cooking, Izuku added to the skillet 1 tablespoon of mirin sauce, 5 tablespoons of sake, 3 tablespoons of sugar and 3 tablespoons of soy sauce and kept simmering everything at a low flame and moving the skillet's content around gently so to not make anything stick or burn. The 3 tablespoons of sesame seeds Izuku prepared beforehand went then rapidly toasted on a side pan and then added to the meat once most of the liquid in the skillet had been absorbed by the beef to properly coat it. Left the meat to rest as well for a moment, the circle of pizza dough was recovered and gently brushed until a light layer of sauce covered its top. Izuku then added on top of it the beef shigurine and some white scallions along a generous amount of mozzarella, and moved everything into the oven to turn the dough into a crispy-looking golden brown color. "Done?" Takeo asked with a malevolent smile while removing his roast beef from the fire. "For now," Izuku answered, unfazed. "Do you know how a king is selected?" the vegetable king asked, and the more he talked, the more his eyes turned sharp and malevolent, like a carnivorous animal's. "I suspect it is about skills, isn't it?" the other replied while preparing a big selection of cheeses he carefully divided into groups and then cut into tiny cubes. "Exactly. Miss Yamato personally selects only the best students to create a new formation of kings every year and lets both old and new formations battle to see who remains and who is kicked out, so if you don't keep your abilities sharp, you get switched with a new candidate." Who? Barely interested enough to listen, the green-haired chef briefly removed the pizza from the oven to add the wide array of cheeses to the thing, for the confusion of the students and judges watching that could not properly see what the hell he was doing due to his body obscuring the pizza, and then put it back into the oven. "Well, I was still in high school when I was selected as the vegetable king," Takeo declared with savage pride. "Kaya! Takeo-sama is so cool," a female student yelled in amazement. "Takeo-sama is the best. He's invincible," another girl squealed right after. I didn't know that." "How strong is he?" a boy screamed in horror. "Good for you." Izuku instead answered while checking his watch to see how long before his pizza was ready. A saving grace of his perfectionism/semi-OCD mentality when cooking was that any form of nervousness usually plaguing him would always take a backseat so to not disturb him while working his magic. "I have kept this position for years. Unmatched. Undefeated. Do you know why?" Sigh. "No," Izuku answered with a sigh, immediately filing the guy under the kinda negative, Katsuki-like label. "Because I can manipulate the taste of dishes. Both mine and of my enemies. Every time a fool tried challenging me, my dish always made theirs inedible. For example, this roast beef is one of my many trump cards. All thanks to Dash. Cinerine. A natural component that makes artichokes have their characteristic bitter taste, but a substance also able to scramble the taste buds of who eats them, causing everything eaten after that to taste sweeter by virtue of their tongue's state of confusion. I guess people usually focus on the beef and ignore the artichokes when you propose this theme for your challenges." Izuku finished the guy's speech himself while rolling his eyes. A tense silence fell into the room. "I've already seen a strategy like that being implemented. Last time it was inside a torta rustica, a salted cake of Italian cuisine where a cake-like dish is prepared with salted dough and vegetables in place of cake dough and fruits. Your using beef for this kind of trick threw me for a loop for an instant, then I saw the ridiculous amount of artichokes you were boiling for your sauce and I remembered the power of sirene. You yourself pretty much told me you planned to use that by quoting the true power of artichokes during your speech." Izuku explained, nailing the young man with a sidelong glare that rooted him on the spot. Example of torta rustica. Vegan Emperor Gohan was an up-and-coming chef back in Zaus' world. At his first appearance at the same cooking tournament Zaus had already taken part in several times when making his official debut, but unfortunately Gohan had tried the tactic against Setsuno of all people, trying to trick her with a vegan version of that torta rustica dish filled to the limit in artichokes. The old woman took only a glance at the guy's ingredient spread to literally guess the full recipe and counter it. The vegan emperor's defeat that year had been so devastating the guy almost stopped being a chef altogether. And that incident actually cemented Zaus' friendly rivalry with Setsuno. So sure of yourself, then let's see how sturdy your conviction is. Takeo answered with a chilling smile. His giant slab of roast beef he had just finished cooking while Izuku was focused on kneading the pizza dough and preparing his own beef shigurini topping, and once moved onto a plate it mesmerized both judges and students. The Vegetable King's beef was releasing endless thin strands of smoke, and when the young man did cut through it, the cross-section of the meat actually amazed the onlookers into a frenzy. That cross-section. The meat has such a brilliant shade of pink inside. That is not mere surface roasting. He made the heat permeate down to the core. That's amazing. Back in the days I was the meat king of the formation, then I learned of the power of vegetables and how they can subtly change and manipulate the taste of my dishes. It was then that I switched focus. The area of expertise does not determine the number, skills do, and as my skills soared, so did my place in the formation. I am sorry, B, but I did not ask you about your backstory. Can't we just cook? Izuku asked, unsure. A growl decidedly not human escaped Takeo's throat at that. Pray that your pizza will be enough, because my dish will devour you. Takeo growled with chilling eyes. Plea. Takeo-sama is so cool. Devour me as well, plea. Quit your yapping, the Vegetable King roared with his eyes turning golden and his teeth becoming sharp fangs. Eek. Anger doesn't make a good dish. Neither does hubris. Izuku said, looking at Whitey's red eyes in worry since it meant the robot had started sensing violent hostility coming from the young man. But savagery does. And my savage, world-ending roast beef will dominate you. Takeo answered, brandishing a knife with a wide blade to start mincing vegetables at high speed. Once I've chopped some horseradish and added some fresh cream and anchovies, the base for the artichoke sauce for my beef will be ready. Izuku simply stood in silence, sitting on a stool with both arms and legs crossed while looking straight at the pizza he was preparing, his eyes unblinking as he followed every minute change of the thing through the glass panel of the oven. Speechless in terror, I can't blame you. Takeo said in cruel amusement. Once the artichokes are added my dish will be ready, while you will need at best 5 more minutes for the pizza to be done properly. By then the judges will have already tasted my roast beef and the cyrene in the sauce will have bewitched their tongue and manipulated their sense of taste. Even after cleansing their palate the effects will still linger, and your precious pizza will at best taste like an overly sweet cake. Even your precious countermeasure will amount to nothing. Groan. I already know that they won't cleanse their palate enough to avoid the effects of cyrene. Now get back to cooking, we are here for this, not for talking. Izuku answered with a sigh while massaging his temples to avoid a headache from overcoming him. Ah. Your voice is grating, like the voice of an old acquaintance of mine. He too loves to hear himself talking, and that kind of person always gives me a headache. Too annoying. Izuku admitted, groaning again, and unknown to him Katsuki that was looking at the livestream actually looked hurt at his words instead of angry, to the surprise of the guy's classmates. We'll see who will laugh last. The artichokes are ready. Takeo hissed in answer with a scowl, and once finished boiling all the artichokes he wished to use, he rapidly chopped them all and added them to the sauce. My roast beef artichoke heaven style is ready. It's over for you, the Vegetable King declared with a fanged smile while preparing a dish for everybody. That's it. The dish that made him become one of the kings. We can finally taste the legendary dish, a student gasped in awe from the classroom's back. The meat looked otherworldly tender and covered in a smooth sauce glittering a little in the room's light. On top of each dish Takeo had also added a poached egg, making its golden color stand out in stark contrast with the pale color of the sauce and the pinkish one of the meat. Judge's table. Impressive, the center of the meat has a perfectly rosy color, pleasing to the eye but still cooked properly. It's rare to find such a balance in a dish prepared by a student. Minato admitted, impressed. Me and Takeo spar often, the current score is 27-27, he is the only one I deem worthy of being my rival. Mako added, she too looked pleased by the dish's looks. Ha ha ha. This is my vegetable king. The bitterness of the cream matches the thick taste of the beef to perfection. And even the meat's juices become an integral part of the flavor that turns everything into a never-ending dream. Ah! Yamato declared, proud beyond belief. I see. So this is how it works. To everybody's surprise, Izuku's voice was not filled with despair, but in childish curiosity. Ah! You didn't just boil the artichokes. You actually removed most of the dish innate sweetness so that it would only come from the artichokes themselves and made the cream sauce subtly more bitter than usual as a base to preserve your own dish taste. All to counterbalance the huge amount of sirene you wanted to add and not put yourself in danger. Not bad, the green-haired chef said while enjoying his portion. You figured that out with a single bite? Takeo whispered in horror, he too had been eating his dish to bask in the taste of his victory. Why, yes. I needed confirmation you actually did prepare the recipe the way I envisioned, otherwise my counter-strategy wouldn't have worked like I needed. I only missed the sauce base being extra bitter, but that will actually help me as well. The sirene now is sitting on our tongue and overshadowing every other sweet taste. When the judges will eat my dish, the sirene on their tongue will be washed away by their chewing and return the taste buds of their tongues to normal. Curiously though, those receptors of sweetness will remain overexcited, making every sweet taste following your beef seem even 10 times more intense. You planned for that to happen to ruin my pizza, isn't it? And my dish recipe, the taste, like you envisioned? Yes, I know I should have focused on my dish alone, but in order to make sure I was countering you properly, I had to prepare a copy of your roast beef too. Izuku answered with a shy smile. Why you prepared my dish? When? Where? Here. While preparing the beef shigurumi topping I also prepared the same roast beef you made, he answered while tapping the side of his head. You made a copy of my dish while making yours? Without looking at me, who are you? Takeo asked in abject horror. I thought you knew. Nice to meet you, I am Izuku Midoriya, owner and chef of Green Cloud Restaurant, he answered with a formal bow. Wait. You own a restaurant? You are not just a minor chef from a rundown eatery? Sadao and Michiko yelled as one in shock. Yes, I own a restaurant. Why? Yamato-san didn't tell you? No. Our rector failed to give us some key details about you, the dessert king answered, appalled. We only knew you worked in a minor restaurant, Sadao added, faintly. His minor restaurant has a dedicated full page on Foodie Advisor with 200 reviews, all 5 stars, and the forum's rarely awarded platinum ribbon right next to the restaurant name. Fuck, Mako muttered, paling a little after checking Izuku's restaurant on her phone. I just wanted you to face this challenge with a clear mind, Yamato answered, sniffling haughtily. You told us he was a nobody. Michiko screeched. Technically, he is. Yamato answered, huffing. Technically my ass, Mom, Minato muttered in dismay while facepalming, a sentiment unanimously shared by the teachers that will soon face Izuku and were secretly watching. As an added insult, in the livestream chat the guys from I-Island, together with Momo and Ochako, started shamelessly spamming the link to that forum page and the restaurant location for everybody to see. This means nothing. You can't have imagined just how many artichokes I would have used as well. With all the sirene in my dish, even plain water will taste sweet like sugar. Takeo said with wide eyes, almost sounding desperate instead of smug. You would be amazed by how strong my imagination is. Ah. Sirene, Miraculin, there are many ways to manipulate the taste of your own dish and the dishes of others. You only need to know what fruit or vegetable to extract them from, and how to use them. If I wanted, I could have done the same to you with my own rose extract and the glycoproteins in it right from my challenge against Michiko-san. But I preferred to make sure the judges would clean their palate properly before our match. Contrary to you, I want to win on my merits, not with tricks. Izuku answered, finally taking his pizza out of the oven. Tricks? Takeo hissed. This is fine and all, but now that your pizza is ready, we will either cleanse our palate and have it turn cold, or eat it as it is and have its taste ruined by Takeo's dish. Yamato said, smirking. Right. You have no chance to win this. My other name is Flavor Demon, my real domain is in the manipulation of taste. Bravado won't help you. Takeo declared. Flavor Demon? Then I'll be called the King of Chefs, if you don't mind. And as such, I won't let somebody using underhand tactics come threatening my kingdom. Izuku answered, nonplussed, while presenting his dish, a pizza with two kinds of topping, turning it half black and half white, only created to form a perfect Tao symbol. Inyang pizza, half with beef shigurini as topping and half quattro formaggi, in Italian, four cheeses. Please start by tasting the beef slice, then the cheese one. Izuku instructed after distributing 2 slices of the big pizza to each judge and then Takeo and himself. The shigurini has a sweet undertone in its own taste. One may think you are basically committing suicide by making us start from that, Minato muttered. Please, do humor me, Izuku asked, sheepish. Your funeral, boy, even if it is a very nice shigurini I am seeing. It's a bit of a pity to have its taste ruined by Takeo's artichoke sauce. Yamato admitted. Right. I can still defeat you. To my victory. Itadakimasu. Takeo declared with a wide smile and then gave a huge bite to his pizza slice. The room was once more plunged into an absurdly thick silence as every judge's eyes snapped open wide. This doesn't taste sweet, this pizza is damn amazing. Sadao was the first to snap out of her stupor, and her first words were full of astonishment. How? Takeo instead was looking at the slice he had just tasted in horror. For a start, it was not any normal sauce that I used on the pizza dough, I basted it with yuzu miso sauce. Izuku answered, clearly enjoying his own slice and talking with bulging cheeks in an utterly adorable scene. Yuzu is a kind of Japanese citrus. Why yuzu miso? Ahoo! My homemade yuzu miso is also extra bitter thanks to the grated yuzu peel I normally add to it to give it a more sophisticated taste. And since I knew styrene would have increased any sense of sweetness, I had to drastically decrease the quantity of mirin sugar and white miso I used to prepare the beef as well. But, the shigurini recipe you followed. Oh! That, I actually used more beef than required when using those quantities of condiments. Then why does it taste this good? Michiko asked, confused. He used Takeo's dish to increase the taste of his pizza, Yamato answered with a low tone. Wah! Exactly. This version of the dish would never work without somebody consuming that much styrene beforehand. Takeo-san, thanks to your sauce, my own beef shigurini had the chance to shine for real. No! Even better. Thanks to your styrene bomb sauce, my shigurini is actually even tastier than its normal version. Thank you. Izuku explained, smiling proud of himself. Why you? Takeo muttered while his body seemed to grow bigger. You were fast in pointing out your friend's mistakes, but you too made a glaring one. Had you not declared those vegetables to be the key factor of your dish, had you not boasted about artichokes being basically your secret weapon, I would have gone through with the first dish I had decided to make, and your victory would have been almost certain. I learned on my skin to be humble and careful, I hope this will help you too. Izuku said. You, Takeo said again, now silver fur could be seen rapidly covering his body while he kept getting more buff until he took a slightly hunched posture. Also, your biggest mistake was actually making beef not artichokes the theme of our challenge, your wish to keep your tactic a secret gave me the key to defeat it too. Growling. By the way, to truly enjoy my dish full taste, I suggest you eat the cheese half now, your palate should be properly ready after the beef shigurini. Izuku said, unafraid and personally taking a bite of the quattro formaggi side of his portion. The cheese, a quattro formaggi, one of the most common toppings of Italian pizza, Mako muttered while giving a bite to the second slice of pizza on her plate. Midoriya. In the meantime, Takeo had subconsciously fully activated his quirk to turn into a feral-looking werewolf with silver fur. Amazing! Minato gasped in wonder. I kind of had to modify the original recipe, though, since ricotta, soft cow/goat cheese, is not exactly an official part of the quattro formaggi. Izuku explained. Mozzarella, Parmigiano, ricotta and gorgonzola. Simple cheeses mixed together to perfection, and the taste is simply unreal. How? Michiko asked. They all are cheeses rich of salty flavor, their mellow richness and that salty feeling goes in stark contrast with all the sweetness your tongues have been bombarded with thanks to Takeo-san's roast beef and my shigirini. It was a royal pain to balance it, but I knew that all that sweetness would have made the cheese's taste stand out amazingly if I managed to pull it off. And I believe I managed. Not only the saltiness. You used black pepper to add extra tingling to the dish too. Mako answered, amazed. The bitterness of the artichokes paved the road to the sweetness of my shigirini, enriched by the cinnarine, and both acted as the introduction to the final part of my dish, the saltiness of my quattro formaggi. And if you taste the shigirini again, you will find the taste transformed, now having turned pleasantly bitter. This is the inyang pizza, sweetness and saltiness neatly separated and yet with a bit of each other in them still, all thanks to my flavor-transforming beef shigirini. Izuku explained. And all this wouldn't have been possible without you, Takeo-san. Your dish made mine reach an even greater level. I did not just counter you, I used your own secret weapon against you. Midoriya. Takeo's voice was now a growl with drool flowing down his fangs-filled lupin mouth. It was an amazing display of abilities. I am sorry, Takeo, but I must vote for Midoriya. Minato said, sighing and showing a sad smile. Midoriya. Sorry, Takeo. Michiko. You. Midoriya. You were amazing, Takeo, but I have to. Sadao. You. He used your siren against you, that in itself was impressive, but I can't even tell how he made the same dish have two different shades of flavor, but don't worry, I will avenge you. Mako said with a merciless smile. Sorry, Takeo, Sadao muttered with a low voice. Midoriya. You fucking bastard. The transformed vegetable king howled in madness while jumping Izuku with the rest of the class screaming in fear. Troublemaker. Whitey. Stop. Izuku yelled while jumping back and watching the stool he was sitting on getting bitten to splinters by the mad werewolf. Bump. Bump. As soon as his feet touched ground again, a duo of needles appeared in Izuku's hands and he used them on the knocking pressure points of his own shoulders to enlarge his arms' muscles and fists to thrice their sizes. Come here. Takeo roared. Stop. Yamato yelled with wide eyes at seeing one of her kings fully lose his cool and assault the green-haired boy a second time. Idiot, they all heard Izuku mutter with a sigh, both his hands raised high and fists clenched tight. Bodhisattva tenderizer, the green-haired chef declared with blazing eyes as both his fists came slamming down on both shoulders of Takeo to fully interrupt the werewolf charge and slam him down face-first on the floor with an extremely loud boom. And the entire school shook heavily. In Buddhism, a bodhisattva, /bodhistv/bohdsutv, is any person who is on the path towards Buddhahood. In short, an attack that hits you so hard you almost reach Buddhahood. Ugh! Takeo groaned weakly from the crater on the floor his body created under the weight of Izuku's attack, and the young man was already returning to look human as soon as he fully lost consciousness. Sigh. That was fairly pathetic. Yamato commented bitterly while watching one of her prized students lying on the floor unconscious. That is assault, mum, a crime. Minato answered. Yes, and a fairly pathetic one. You don't throw away your future just because you lost a challenge, but I guess that for somebody as prideful as Takeo, losing to anybody else besides Mako was too much to bear. The old woman said while walking towards the door. Where are you going? Her son asked. I need to make a couple calls, one to the police force to report the attack, and one to Toshio's family, after Michiko's outburst and Takeo's moment of madness, we are short of judges. Will I go to prison? Michiko asked, afraid. That is up to the police to decide. I will have to suspend you for a while though. You are unfit to judge for the same reason. After your attempted attack, your judgment can easily be put in question. You should have considered this before Takeo's challenge even started. She answered, sighing. Yes, madam. The girl answered with a low sigh. I am surprised you are not covering for them, Izuku admitted. There isn't much to cover since we are streaming all this live, and even then, while I may like to see you lose, I don't want to see you drop dead. I am a chef, not a murderer, same going for my students. Takeo and Michiko will face the consequences of their actions. Yamato answered. I understand. He replied. In the silence that followed that exchange, the old woman quietly left the class with a somber expression. I know that asking this is foolish or even hypocritical. Minato tried saying once seen his mother leave. Yes? Izuku asked. Both Takeo and Michiko will have a lot to deal with once we are done here. Can I at least ask you to not press charges? Adding a court visit on top of all this could really ruin their future. The man begged. I am sorry. Michiko added, already crying. Sigh. Apologizing after the deal means very little, you know? Izuku answered with a heavy sigh. Please, Minato begged. If they get away with this, it will set a precedent, and these things will happen again. But it won't happen again. You have the power to instantly change how society thinks and acts against the quirkless, Mr. Minato? Izuku asked. And no. Michiko's attack didn't even start. You can't know if she only wanted to scare you instead of strangling you. Sadao tried saying. Were you just trying to scare me, Michiko-san? He asked. Yes. The girl answered with a tentative smile. No. I really did try grabbing you, after a long war of stares though. Michiko deflated and told the truth. And then? He pressed on. I don't know, I was not really thinking. She admitted. That is what I meant. Just consider it, please. Minato pleaded. Let's finish these challenges first, then you all will be free to beg him for forgiveness. Even if in his place I would have none. Mako answered, unfazed, and carelessly threw away everything she found on Takeo's workstation to make room for her own equipment. Okay, Izuku conceded with a new sigh. Few agents will be here shortly to collect Takeo and our testimony. They accepted my request to let Michiko see the final challenge against Mako, but then she will have to follow them back to the police station for further questioning. An agent will wait outside for her. Yamato informed everybody as soon as she returned. Thank you, madam. Michiko answered. Did you take Takeo's knife, Midoriya? Not yet. He answered. Here, as far as I know, this was his favorite. I'll write his name on it for you. Mako said while collecting said utensils. Thank you. But, you don't seem very sad about your friend's situation. Me and Takeo are good friends, but I also recognize that his ego has always been a huge problem. I guess it was only his one-sided crush on me that made sure losing to me never bothered him. He probably saw it as me being worthy of him or some similar nonsense. It was only a matter of time before karma caught up to his stupidity. You reap what you sow, and all that. The woman answered. One-sided crush. Izuku asked. You knew about it? Sadao chorused right after. I pride myself to be a bright woman. Takeo was wearing a neon sign declaring his interest in me, as far as I am concerned. Oh. Surprising. The Fish King answered. I know. While we wait for the police to arrive, I say we organize our own challenge, Midoriya. Are you up for it? Mako asked. I am ready. What is the theme? He answered. Soup. Okay. And? He asked once she did not elaborate further. That's it, we will both make soup, and there won't be restrictions on ingredients, mostly, she answered with a predatory smirk. Mostly. We both will need to use as many ingredients as possible and make it so their taste won't clash. I saw you win while using 1 or 2 ingredients tops, I want to see if you can handle lots more. For example, I will use bear meat, Pacific soy, beef, apples, salmon, chicken and various vegetables. So your dish will double as a revenge for the fallen kings? Izuku asked with his eyebrows almost shutting up all the way to his hairline. What can I say, I have a soft spot for theatrics, she replied, laughing. Fair enough, I will use the same ingredients then, plus a few others. Izuku answered. Good. Sigh. I think I know what you are planning for, I will ask our janitors to bring the machines here. Yamato said. Machines? You'll see, Midoriya. Mako answered, smiling mischievous. 20 minutes later. Just as 2 agents of the police force finally arrived to cuff Takeo and slowly dragged the still unconscious young man away, Toshio the Meat King entered the room to accompany the school janitors rolling inside 2 bulky and complex-looking machines the size of a fridge. I am glad you accepted returning here for this, Yamato said. I am doing this as a favor to Midoriya, after Takeo and Michiko screwed up he needed a proper judge, I am already looking for a new school. The plump boy answered, huffing. Fair enough. The old woman replied with a sigh of dismay. While we waited, have you thought about what soup you will prepare? Mako asked. Sort of, I think I know which one I will make to face you. Izuku answered. Good to hear. Is the host aware of the main problem with his choice? The voice of his sponsor though made its presence known soon after. Problem? He asked. In order to prepare a perfect century soup, the host will need a drop of saliva from the ingredient known as wall penguin. Does the host wish to purchase some from the system? The entity asked. So that was the last ingredient? No wonder nobody else could replicate it. Setsuno probably knew and did not tell me either, damn her. Izuku thought in amusement. No need. My imperfect version is still an extremely good soup. I will use that to defeat Mako. The young chef answered. So you say there won't be a theme or chosen ingredient, the only requirement is that we prepare a soup with as many ingredients as we can handle, Izuku said with a mischievous, and still adorable, smile. Yes. Mako answered, with a rather big chunk of ice spontaneously forming in her stomach out of worry. Good to know. Whitey, please bring me all the ingredients they have in storage. Here are the quantities I need. The young chef asked while rapidly jotting down a note on a piece of paper. Understood. The plump robot answered and immediately ran out of the room. Every ingredient we have in our storage? Minato asked with a faint voice. Exactly. Should be many, right? Izuku asked. We will soon have a feast to celebrate the anniversary of the founding of our school, so the kitchen storage has been stocked to capacity, Yamato answered, just as unnerved. How many? Izuku pressed on just as Whitey barged in with a huge pair of burlap sacks filled to the brim in ingredients on his shoulders, and the school cafeteria's chef desperately clinging to his leg to stop the robot. 253 different ingredients have been collected, host. Whitey declared. More or less that many, Yamato confirmed with a tiny voice. Rector. Stop this monster. This thing has beaten up and undressed the entire kitchen staff. Not even the women were spared, the guy cried out in horror. Disciplinary stripping cares not about gender. All troublemakers in the way to the host's mission shall be stripped as an example to others, the robot answered while delivering the ingredients to Izuku. Monster, several girls shrieked in horror. I care not about your feelings. Your respect wamen shall be used to shine this unit's backside. The system answered through Whitey's mouth, merciless as usual and making Izuku chuckle. Many outraged gasps echoed in the room at that. Small matters aside, I will start my own soup if you don't mind. The green-haired chef declared. You can't use that many ingredients together, Mako said with wide eyes. I have watched the others use many ingredients in every fight I had with you kings. What's wrong with me doing this now? At best I used less than 10. Not over 200. Michiko screeched in shock. I know, unfortunately the century soup does require a lot of ingredients to be done. Izuku answered with a helpless shrug. Century soup? Never heard of it. Mako admitted. Imagine it as a very clear consommé. It will take a couple hours to make, but it will be oh so worth it, Izuku answered, showing an eager expression. A couple hours? Good. At least I will have plenty of time to make my own flavor pearls soup. We both will use our best dish, good. The woman said with a feral smirk. It's not really my best dish, but whatever floats her boat, I guess, Izuku muttered to himself in answer. Both contestants ready? This is the last challenge between Midoriya Izuku and the Five Kings, this time against Soup King Mako Yarakami. The theme is simply soup and will be the longest of them all as both will have 2 hours to complete their dish. Minato said with a tense tone. I ask again, are you ready? We are ready. Both young chefs answered at the same time. Then, begin. At the signal, both contestants moved at the same time. While Izuku pulled out the biggest pot he could find, Mako was already attacking a fat salmon so fresh it looked still alive. Putting the fat fish on the chopping board, she slashed downward with her customized knife branded with Inoshiki Academy insignia on the handle to fillet and skin the salmon at high speed. That is some impressive knife technique, Izuku admitted. He had instead started with the beef and bear meat, cleaning both at high speed and then seasoning them. That's not the only thing I am impressive at. Now you'll see why I remained the first king ever since I was selected. Mako answered, her feral smile showing a sinister edge that still gained her loud simping cries from the students behind her. Those guys are hopeless, Izuku commented with a sigh as his knife moved in a burst of speed that gave the illusion of 3 blades chopping down at the same time and slicing the sori he was working with into thin stripes in an instant. How can you cut that fast? Mako blurted out, awed by the sight. Hard and merciless training, both my old teacher and my current sponsor are slave drivers. The young man answered, sighing. Well, it matters not. It won't be the fastest chef to win, but the best. On the notes of that answer, Mako finished separating the skin, scales, meat and bones of the salmon she was working with neatly, each movement of hers swift and extremely precise. Once finished dealing with the fish meat, the young woman sent Izuku a challenging glare and pulled out a metal rack with a big funnel on top and a tiny hole on the bottom under which she positioned a big bowl filled in a clear liquid with a light gelatinous consistency. What's that? He asked. My secret weapon. Custom made to help my heat parasite quirk show its full potential while cooking. Mako answered in glee. He is finished. Queen Mako is also known as the Molecular Devil. Nobody can match her expertise, a girl exclaimed in reverential wonder from the back of the class. Molecular cuisine, eh? I have dabbled in it a couple times, but in the end, I always return to more mundane cooking methods. Izuku admitted with a thoughtful expression. He actually remembered a chef from his lifetime as Zaus that specialized in that branch of cooking, mad scientist Nanichi. But no amount of amazing dishes could help Izuku stomach the guy's obnoxious manners he displayed whenever out of a kitchen. That man was just too rude and annoying. Aha! Then let me show you how a master does it. Mako answered. One of the machines she had asked for and had been moved into the class was soon turned on, and each container on the front of the bulkiest machine went filled by the fish parts, skin inside the first, the meat in the second and the bones in the third. This is what we jokingly refer to as taste extractor. It will forcefully extract every drop of essence from whatever is inserted into the containers and pour the resulting liquids into separate vials. Mako explained, and loud shredding noises rang out as soon as she started the thing. That poor salmon is not exactly enjoying it, Izuku muttered, unheard. Hearing the voice of ingredients helped him and many of his colleagues learn that not every ingredient liked being used in molecular gastronomy. It was actually very polarizing opinion, but it was clear to Izuku how that particular salmon didn't appreciate being treated like that. Once collected the vials of salmon essence, Mako switched containers with clean ones to repeat the process with her own seasoned bear meat, and doing it again over and over with every ingredient she had chosen. What now? While slowly stirring the soup stock he made until it started to boil gently, Izuku watched the wide collection vials now filling Mako's workstation. Now I will turn all this into beautiful pearls of flavor thanks to a solution of sodium alginate and calcium chloride, pearls I will then freeze. She answered. I don't want to sound like a grumpy old man or even a 20th century boomer, but I still find all that a bit too extreme as a way of cooking, too many chemicals involved. Izuku admitted, sheepish. To each their own. Mako answered with an annoyed huff. It was a curious sight indeed. On one side they watched Izuku carefully cut pork meat into identical tiny cubes barely an inch big, while at the opposite side Mako was instead using a syringe to collect the content of a vial of essence and pouring it a drop at a time into a small basin containing the chemical bath that turned each drop into a small gelatinous ball the size of a pea. One chef is cooking in the traditional way, the other is using the most modern equipment of the 22nd century. It's literally a battle between past and present. Minato muttered, intrigued. Like watching a samurai fighting a robot? Sadao asked with starry eyes. Exactly. The man answered, excited. Honey, you read too many light novels. Yamato commented while rolling her eyes. I am still going to say that samurai versus zombie versus robot for the love of the takoyaki princess in the kingdom of dancing squids is neither trashy nor cringe. Minato answered, huffing. Minato, the title alone made my skin crawl. The woman answered, sighing. Hater. With Izuku and Mako. The contestants were luckily too engrossed in their cooking to notice the strange byplay between mother and son, so did the audience both in class and following the live stream. Once every drop of essence from the various vials had been turned into gelatinous spheres, all neatly separated into different dishes, Mako grabbed one of the handles of her contraption with one hand, rapidly covering the entire thing with a thin layer of frost once absorbed into herself every ounce of heat thanks to her quirk. Here it is. My secret weapon. I am going to kick your nice ass, pretty boy, and as expected, the downside of her quirk as well showed up with all the absorbed heat making her self-control slip. Wah. Izuku shrieked at the comment about his ass. You heard me. I don't care if you can bounce a coin on that masterpiece of your butt. You're being a hot piece of ass teasing every girl in a 30 meters radius with your mere presence won't save you this time. Your, please molest me, Wunshin. Sex aura won't work on me. Mako roared with a savage roar. Eek. Mako becomes way too forward when overheating, Michiko commented with a sigh of dismay. Not that she is wrong. Sadao added, she, just like the other girls in class, was now avoiding Izuku's eyes when the unnerved chef tried looking at them. True. I am not like that. I don't have that Wunshin aura or whatever, at best I am an average plain boy. He muttered with a pout. A supremely adorable pout. Bullshit. The girls in the classroom thought as one at the same time. The same answer momentarily swarmed the live stream chat as well as every female user typed that. The same thought also crossed the minds of the fans of the original manga. That ass belongs to me, kindly keep those dirty paws away from it. Momo thought in distaste while scowling at the live stream. Still glaring at the green-haired chef, Mako kept one hand on her contraption to keep it cold, while with the other she delicately poured the content of a dish to let the drops of essence gently roll into the funnel. Thanks to my quirk, I can freeze these drops instantly. Even better than a bath into liquid nitrogen. You are finished, pretty boy. Mako, still under the effects of her overheating, declared as the tiny pearl-like frozen grains started dripping down from the funnel and filling up the porcelain bowl under it. Once repeated the freezing with the content of every vial, soon pearl-like grains of different colors filled the bowl to the brim. The pearls are ready, now I can focus on the soup proper. The woman said with a sigh, moving the bowl of pearls into the fridge with a more relaxed expression. Feeling better? Izuku asked with a whisper. Yes, I will be. Luckily the effect doesn't last long once I stop absorbing heat. Sorry about what I said. It was distasteful. Mako answered, ashamed. No harm done, don't worry. Thank you. You're done making pearls? Yes, I will start preparing the soup proper. How about you? I am a third of the way. To make a proper consommé 2 hours will be barely enough, but I'll manage. Izuku answered. Give it your all, then. I hate chefs who slack off. Mako answered, nodding. Said that, the young woman started preparing a chicken bone stock since the bird's meat will be the main element of the soup. Chicken soup as a base, making a tasty soup that is also clear and without oil or grease suspension will be of essence to make a successful dish. Yamato thought with narrowed eyes while studying both contestants' handiwork. In the meantime Mako had finished cleaning the knife she used to prepare the ingredients for the essence extractor and was now cutting the meat, skillfully piercing through the chicken's skin right above the articulations connecting the wings to the body and cleanly separating them from the breast. Done the same with the legs, and after quartering the chicken breast, she delicately removed the bones to prepare the stock and rubbed every piece of meat in butter and placed the now shining cuts into an earthenware pot. Good, now, the herbs and the pepper grains. The young woman muttered, thoughtful. While the bone stock was slowly starting bubbling gently on the stove, a colorful mix of herbs and spices, along with a small pinch of black pepper, was gently sprinkled above the meat until every piece was covered uniformly, then the pot went sealed by its lid and put above the fire. Having now her hands momentarily free of work, she moved a bit closer to see what Izuku was doing. This century soup? She asked. Yes. He answered while removing the last traces of scum floating to the surface of the meat he was blanching, meat that went then added to the main pot boiling at low flame. Do you really need all those ingredients to make it? Yes. To be fair, though, a proper century soup should be left boiling for up to 10 hours, but with the ingredients I am using, 2 hours will suffice. Izuku answered. Is it a very complex dish then? She asked while peering into the bubbling pot. Very. I might lack a key ingredient that is still fermenting back in my personal kitchen, but I have experimented enough with this recipe to know how to cover for most of this problem. This I am preparing is what I call proto-century soup, but done here I plan to make the real one back at my restaurant. 10 hours even, impressive. Impressive and a slog to prepare. Of course the original recipe requires many hours to be done. The ingredients needed are so out of ordinary compared to the ones of this world that it's not a surprise the requirements are just as crazy. The green-haired young man mentally added with a sigh. Ah! You said that the missing ingredient is still fermenting, what's that? Mako asked, curious. Homemade aromatic vinegar. Secret recipe. Izuku answered with a cheeky wink, and using the lie suggested by the system. So you are fighting me with an imperfect soup? Mako asked with narrowed eyes. Imperfect implies it will be a bad soup. I am preparing a different version of the original dish, please don't insult it. It will be exceptionally good, I know. Izuku answered, sending her a side glare. We'll see. The young woman answered as she marched back to her own workstation. Some time later. While Izuku's dish was nearing the final phases of preparation, Mako's own soup was almost ready as well. As she waited for the soup to be ready, she recovered her pearls of flavor from the fridge and started collecting a few of each flavor to create a small selection of colorful beads she then poured into small dishes, one for each judge plus 2, one for Izuku and one for herself. In her pot, water boiled and steam rolled forth while the soup was constantly bubbling, filling the room in the homely scent of cooked chicken. Looking as if unsatisfied by something, Mako actually grabbed a few pearls from the ones remaining from her selection and tossed them into the soup where they melted instantly, causing the scent to change slightly while the soup bubbled even more violently. Bubbles constantly rose and popped at the surface of the soup the more pearls she added. Plop! 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 This will add a bit of body to the soup taste. I added some essence of herbs, beef and pork to it, enough to add facets without overshadowing the gentle taste of chicken. Mako explained with a smirk. Using a steel ladle to scoop out the soup and show it to the people present, Izuku and the others saw that the thing was extremely clear, without a single trace of oil, which made it look pleasing to the eyes. The dense meat fragrance of the chicken intermingled perfectly with the delicate scent of the bone broth it was submerged in, with the mixture of scents wafting everywhere to tease the noses of the spectators. Swish! Pouring the delicate chicken meat soup into the various white porcelain bowls, Mako then took the dishes containing her flavor pearls and delivered everything to the judges' table. Here it is, my flavor pearls chicken soup is ready. Please try the meat and soup by themselves and then pour the pearls in the remaining broth, then you can either wait for them to melt or eat them as they are and enjoy the feeling of hot and cold they provide. Please enjoy your meal. Mako explained with a deep bow. Although the judges all thanked her for their portion, their attention kept gravitating towards the other soup still cooking, and Mako could not exactly blame them either. The soup kept bubbling and bubbling, with Izuku's ladle never stopping moving to gently squeeze out every drop of taste from everything he used. He keeps adding ingredients, Sadao muttered, shocked. And the scent still remains amazing, Michiko chorused, looking at the big pot with unblinking eyes. Beef, pork, veal, bear, shrimps, calamari, salmon, carrots, potatoes, I can tell each ingredient apart by smell and they are not in conflict. How? A student shrieked in horror from the back of the room. And he keeps adding more. What the fuck? The girl's friend added. The preliminary preparations are done, now, the filtering. Izuku muttered with narrowed eyes. Filtering? Everybody else thought, growing extremely confused. As if to answer them, they watched Izuku prepare a second big pot he topped with an extremely fine filter Whitey pulled out of the opening on his stomach. The thing was so fine that the holes of its net almost could not be seen by naked eye. Now, if I did it properly, 3 times should be enough, and I will only need to make it finish cooking for a couple minutes more after that to be done, Izuku muttered while pouring the entire content of the first pot into the second once removed the cooked ingredients from it. Why filtering it? To make sure the broth is extra clear? Minato muttered, unsure. Maybe he wants to avoid any particles to float in it. Yamato answered while watching Izuku clean the first pot thoroughly to repeat the filtering a second time with a brand new and even finer filter. When the third round of filtering happened though, every whisper died down abruptly to let absolute silence take over, because nobody could comprehend what they were actually seeing. The soup that poured down from the filter now was absolutely invisible. Clearer than water, transparent to the point of absurdity, a soup they could hear sloshing about in the pot, but that they were unable to see. Perfectly done. Izuku declared with an elated smile. How? Mako demanded. It's part of the recipe. Unfortunately, I lack the ingredients to finish it properly, so the 99.9% version will have to do this time. He answered. He honestly could not tell them the missing ingredient came from an animal of another world. While you finish your preparations, we will start judging Mako's soup. Minato said. Please go ahead, I will be done in a minute. Izuku answered, nodding. Good. Let's see, this soup does look delicious. Yamato admitted, sounding extremely impressed. Mako's dish could only be described as beautiful, a soup with enchanting color and luster. Under the light of the room, the dish seemed to be as dazzling as a starry sky with the clear soup emitting an enchanting fragrance as steam rose from the surface of the bowl, constantly rolling around and scattering. The soup was clear with a light yellow tinge to it, and the tiny grains in the small bowl next to it looked like small pearls emitting a hazy luster when light shone onto them. The meat had been cooked a little by itself before being cut into small round slices. Mako then added to the soup, just enough for the butter and the mixture of herbs and spices to properly enrich its taste. Not being fully cooked in the broth also meant that the meat did not break apart once scooped up with the spoon. It was a warm taste that gently warmed the heart of the eater, with the buttery soft pieces of meat giving further body to the dish. Simply wonderful. Yamato declared with a proud tone. Just by sight, this soup has already exceeded every expectation we had, but now is time to see if the taste too was a success. Minato declared. I am confident in my dish, I promise you won't be disappointed. Mako answered while puffing out her chest in pride. I know I won't be, I know you well. Yamato answered. She was the first to taste the dish. When the judges took their first mouthful of soup, the look in their eyes changed from sharp and focused into a more relaxed expression, as if reminiscing few fond memories of days long past. In the next moment, they constantly moved their spoons, scooping more and more spoonfuls to their mouths with an eager expression. Try the pearls too, those are a wonder of molecular cuisine. Mako suggested with a smirk oozing unbearable amounts of pride as she pointed at the small dish of pearls next to the soup plate. Ah! I remember your pearls. Pure taste and essence condensed into minuscule bombs of flavor. Yamato answered, eagerly collecting a few pearls of each color in her spoon. She then briefly dipped into the soup before eating them. When the essence grains entered her mouth, their cold shell formed a sharp contrast with the hot soup that further highlighted their taste. These essence grains were frozen, and the cooling sensation when they entered the mouth together with the warm soup made the judges risk swallowing their tongue in their haste to eat more as soon as the grains taste mixed with the broths. Salmon tastes in chicken soup, it's a surprise the two don't clash. Is it because of their being spheres? Sadao admitted. What she did, spherification, changed the flavor of the ingredients, didn't it? Izuku answered. Pretty much. It is still a chemical reaction, not every ingredient can take it and maintain 100% of their original flavor. In this case it helped because it took away some edge to the salmon taste, enough for it to work with a bone broth base. Mako said. You still took a daring gamble. You have been doing this since the beginning, don't be a hypocrite. She answered. Touché. He admitted with an amused chuckle. It was indeed surprising. The pearls were good eaten alone as well, actually refreshing the palate after eating the warm soup. Simply amazing. Minato declared with a wide smile. Mako-chan has a bit of an attitude, but she does make awesome soups. Sadao added. Never was a lover of soups, but this was admittedly nice to eat, I guess. Michiko said with a shrug. I don't really like watching meat get destroyed and transformed like that, but it was good all the same. I just wish Takeo was here to taste it too. Toshio said with a sigh. Takeo had a choice in taking the defeat with dignity or even making a fool of himself and whining about it. He instead chose to attack somebody in blind fury to avenge his wounded pride like a common hooligan, and assault is a crime. Yamato answered, scowling. It is still so surprising to hear you say that. I might have a personal reason to dislike you, Midoriya, but even that is not a good enough excuse to let one of my students go unpunished after an attack on your life. He broke the law, and as a proper educator it was my duty to clean up the mess and contact the police force to see him properly punished. When he will be released, if ever, he will face the consequences of his actions, and being a promising chef won't spare him that. The old woman answered. Oh, thank you. Izuku answered with a small smile. Sigh. To be perfectly honest, had things been different I would have tried snatching you as a student here with all my might. Yamato admitted with a sigh. It can still happen. Minato whispered to her with a smirk. Hush. She hissed back in answer. Ah. Izuku uttered, confused. Nothing, Midoriya. It's nothing. Are you ready? Yamato answered. Oh. Of course. I will serve it immediately. The green-haired chef said, filling several big bowls in transparent soup. I can't see shit. How can soup be invisible? The plates are empty. A girl in the back yelled. That guy keeps pulling bullshit like that. Can't he cook normal food at least once? Another roared in defiance right after. Many in fact started loudly declaring him a cheater due to the soup's appearances. Please be quiet and don't curse. Izuku asked with a calm and yet cold tone. He didn't actually look back at them, he just raised his right hand and slowly closed it into a fist on the notes of its cracking bones. When a flaming red aura covered his body and the arm's muscles bulged out, a loud chorus of jaws snapping closed echoed behind him as the students in the back instantly fell silent. They all remembered the one-hit KO that downed the berserkering Takeo, and didn't wish to try their luck against Izuku and Whitey that was already glaring at them with red eyes. "That's better. Here is my proto-century soup. Please enjoy," Izuku said with a bow once delivered the full bowls to the judges and Mako. "And one for myself too," he then poured a bowl for himself to enjoy. I don't actually know how to judge this," Minato admitted with an unnerved tone. "I mean, it is a clear soup, and it does smell nice," Toshio muttered, puzzled. "Is this edible?" "He used so many ingredients," Michiko added. "Taste it and you'll see. It came out pretty nice, if I can say so myself," he answered while eating. "Taste it," he says. "How can a soup so transparent have any taste, I wonder," Mako muttered unsure while studying the spoon in her hand. If not for the fact she felt its weight on the spoon and heard it fall back into the bowl once poured it back in, she would actually believe there was nothing in her plate, but even the sound the soup made whenever she stirred it with her spoon was abnormal. It sounded too crisp, too clean. The scent is hard to describe. While gentle and delicate, at times you feel the meat, at others the fish and then the vegetables, the former Meat King commented. "And yet there is nothing here, clear like crystal," Sadao answered. "I wonder how you would react to the small aurora a proper century soup generates above the plate. That is the hard part to explain," Izuku thought while rolling his eyes, and coming up with at least 100 different ingredients from the gourmet world out of the top of his head that would blow their minds way harder than the soup he made. "Please taste it before it gets cold," he begged. "Right. Let's see what you did," Mako answered, shoving a big spoonful of the thing in her mouth all at once. Munch. Ah! I bit into it. The flavor almost felt solid, like biting onto a giant steak. Mako thought in shock as her entire being went assaulted by the soup's true taste. She could see it actually. Hundreds of cows resting in an endless grass field and peacefully basking in the sun with her sitting among them. Then the flavor changed. The salmon. The sori. Mako was now deep into the bottomless sea as giant schools of fishes swam all around her. The flavor changed again. She saw a giant field bustling in vegetables, all juicy and ripe and with the warm and earthy scent of watered soil permeating the air. And the taste changed again. The squid meat. And again. The pork meat. And again. Shrimps. And again. And again. And again. Each bite, each spoonful had a different taste. Always changing. Always transforming. The judges too were drowning in that taste, just as odd as Mako was. "The bear meat," the plump Meat King muttered with teary eyes as he once again came face to face with the same bear of his own challenge, right in the middle of the animal's beloved woods, but this time he didn't feel hostility, as if the female bear had already forgiven him, making weep harder. "The sori's fat and meat in this soup taste so good." Sadao moaned in bliss while still playing around with those fishes in her own little fantasy. "Apples and roses again, he is twisting the knife in the wound," Michiko muttered while eating her bowl of soup. She too was crying faintly. "Impossible, you can't pile up so many flavors on top of each other like this, food doesn't work like this," Yamato muttered with a weak tone, each syllable trembling in badly restrained horror. "I can taste both Takeo's roast beef with artichokes and the pizza that defeated him, Toshio's bear mincemeat katsu and the red braised paws, the cartoccio of Sadao and the scorched carpaccio, even Michiko entremet and the queen's apple tarts are faintly present. The same tastes of the dishes he and the kings made in the various challenges are all present and then many, many more," Minato said while looking at Izuku in disbelief. "The century soup is not just a dish, is a testament of the greatest ingredients of the current century and a thank you to the ingredients of old. A taste both ancient and fresh and pretty much a complete full-course menu condensed in a single dish. My only regret is that this is the incomplete version, unable to showcase the full scope of its taste. But I plan to make it properly and add it to my restaurant menu," Izuku explained. The revelation that the proper version of the soup could be leagues better still in taste threw the entire room into a deep silence of disbelief. Analysis: Host Izuku can add the century soup to the menu, but will still be forced to purchase the wall penguin saliva as an extra until he reaches level 3. Then the ingredient will instead be stocked like every other condiment. The system answered. Fair enough. He thought in answer. Mako in the meantime had finished her plate of soup and had fallen on her knees with the spoon still in her mouth. The dish taste had kept changing again and again until she lost count, and every time becoming more delicious still, beyond her comprehension. How? She asked with a faint voice. Years of trial and error and countless sleepless nights. No superpowers involved, only hard work. Izuku answered, and offered his hand to help her stand back up with a gentle smile. Why does everything you make taste this good? Mako asked once back on her feet. Lots of love for the ingredients, perhaps. I too can't really explain it. He answered, shy. I think I understand, Mako answered. It was simply amazing, I feel no shame in admitting it. We will now proceed to vote dash. There is no need, Mr. Minato. Mako interrupted him with a sad smile. To the other's surprise she took one of her knives and wrote her name on the blade. She then grabbed Izuku's hands and gently closed them around the handle, with her hands covering his. I have never met anybody with such skills before. You may have hidden it well, but I can tell, this wasn't even the tip of the iceberg of what you can do. And it's amazing. Mako declared with a tiny smile. Thank you. Izuku answered, uncertain. The girl was still holding his hands in hers. No. The numerous male simps in the room cried in horror at seeing the green-haired young man cuck them all, at the same time with a bowl of soup. And while the livestream chat looked ready to explode with all the messages of the Izumako shippers flooding it, the students of Class 1A stood in fear-induced absolute silence once seeing Momo clench her phone so hard in her hands the thing snapped in two. She was clearly against watching some random bimbo make doe eyes to her boyfriend, especially with lots of strangers even endorsing it. How dare she? The hero student roared in her head. Back to Inoshiki Academy. I have a girlfriend, you know. Izuku tried saying once his hands were freed from their warm prison. I don't mind sharing, and I am sure you won't either. Mako answered with a mischievous smile. And what about Dash? Your girlfriend will come around, eventually. She won't have a choice. She answered, unaware that Momo did hear that shameless claim from Mina's phone, and besides almost snapping in half that phone too, a feral roar did escape her, making even Aizawa dive for cover once heard that. I can't accept, he tried saying. Ho ho ho. Sooner or later, you will. I am a patient woman, and one day I will drink you up, like a delicious cinnamon soup. She answered, boldly kissing his cheek before returning to her seat, unaware of how screwed she was. UA University, dormitories, common room. The assembled students of Class 1A and their homeroom teacher Aizawa, all brave heroes in training and a pro, stood huddled in a corner to watch in silence Momo sitting alone at a table while watching the livestream through Mina's phone, and while the girl's expression was neutral, in a classy sort of way, a thick and dark miasma kept rolling off from her body in huge waves of darkness. This can't continue. Aizawa said. Yeah. Please teacher, do something. Toru begged. Don't worry, I have a plan, the pro-hero Eraserhead answered with narrowed eyes, making the students cheer silently for their brave teacher. Here goes nothing, Bakugo, go talk to her. The teacher then said. Why me? Katsuki answered with a low, whispered shriek. You are the top dog, right? Yeah. I am the top dog, not the sacrificial lamb. Send the grape-headed moron, nobody will miss him if she tears him in half, the blonde punk replied. Mineta already escaped. Aizawa answered. Fucking useless midget. Todoroki, the pro-hero tried asking. I am the class kaderi, not the student with suicidal thoughts. Shoto answered. I'll go. Ochako said with a trembling voice as she rose to her feet. That reminds me, Momo's hissed answer at that made her turn chalk-white pale, though. You work with Izuku as his waitress, meaning that you actually spend more time with him than me. I hope you are not developing feelings for him that will create a love triangle situation that will culminate with me having to share him with you, so to not see a dear friend of mine suffer from her broken heart after several chapters of headache-inducing love doubts that will plague everybody involved. Momo asked with utterly soulless eyes drilling a hole in Ochako's head. I won't go. Ochako answered by sitting back down on the floor behind the couch, the group's chosen hiding spot. Tokoyami, is up to you. You are the guy with suicide thoughts. So you said. I don't have those. I am the stereotypical goth character. There is a difference, the bird-headed young man answered with wide eyes. Sorry then. Croak. Okay, plan B. Aizawa declared while whipping out his phone. Mike? I am cashing in that favor. I need you to come here and placate a jealous teenage girlfriend. Fuck. Can't I just go fight All for One and his Nomu army alone and naked? No. Be a man, wear a Kevlar vest and come here. Also, bring some gold imperial leaf tea, it should appease the demon long enough for me to talk her into calming down. God damn it, give me 5 minutes to update my last will and I'll be there. Present Mike answered with a defeated sigh. Done, we'll have somebody to bear the brunt of the first explosion and give us an opening to fix this. Aizawa declared with a sigh. What about Shinso? Can't we ask him? Kirishima asked. I tried that already, apparently female fury makes her immune to my quirk. She also did not appreciate my meddling. I've got to remember that if I really join this class of psychos. Shinso answered while adjusting the ice bag over his recently gained black eye. Oh. So that's how you got that. Class 1A is not for pussies, Grapehead is the only anomaly. Katsuki answered. Said that, all of them stood in silence as they waited for Mike to come and save their lives. Back to Izuku, in Oshiki Academy. Sigh. This is the last one, Izuku said once, putting Mako's knife inside the cabinet as well. Should I call my teachers now? Yamato asked. No, there is no need. 5 challenges are more than enough for one day. If I hurry back I will be able to organize the dinner service, so I will save some energy for my job. He answered. I understand. Shall we do it tomorrow then? No need, I don't want to interrupt your lessons. Next week at the same time. Next week, yes, it's feasible, just enough time to take care of both ingredients and equipment. But, can I add something to the challenge? The old woman answered. What is it? Nothing extreme, just a matter of theme. You want to challenge me and my 4 best teachers, that would be 5 themes, boiling, steaming, frying, stewing and carving. Is it acceptable to you? It's okay for me, who will do which? Izuku asked. I will be the one facing you in carving, I will send you a letter detailing the other names tomorrow. Yamato answered. Good for me. If this is all, I will be going. Thank you for accepting my challenge, the young chef said with a deep bow. Had I known you were like this, I wouldn't have accepted, the old woman replied with a sigh. This isn't over. I want a rematch. Michiko said from the sidelines. Me too. Sadao chorused. Hoi! 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 I will be the first. I will have my revenge as well, so beware, Mako added, smirking. Whenever you want, Izuku answered with a wide smile, and under the shocked look of the students of Inoshiki Academy, the green-haired chef walked out of the private school closely followed by his robot bodyguard carrying the ornate wooden cabinet now holding the knives of the legendary 5 kings everybody thought were invincible inside their school. My beloved Samui, I wonder if you have any idea who you have put us against. Yamato muttered to herself with a sigh, unheard by the others. Later that day, Park. One bus stop down, God why I had to challenge a school at the opposite side of the city. Izuku said, sighing, while making his way through the park towards the bus stop at the opposite end of the place to catch the second bus that will take him back to his restaurant. Crackle. A loud rumble and a brief flash of light was all the warning he got before a deluge started rattling everything with raindrops the size of golf balls. Klook. Thank you, Whitey. Izuku said with a grateful tone as the plump robot promptly pulled an umbrella out of his stomach and opened it above the chef's head. Now safe from the freezing rain, the curious duo made their way through the rapidly emptying park. Awesome, it rains too. Until Izuku saw a tall girl with extremely long hair sitting under a tree while hugging her knees tight to her chest, and judging by her red and puffy eyes, she had been crying for a while. You okay? Izuku asked in worry once near her. Nijire blurted out in answer, surprised to see somebody as strange as him near her. A young chef clad in professional uniform accompanied by a tall robot with a big belly was not something one saw every day. I asked you if you are okay. Izuku said again with a warm, gentle smile. I will be, probably. Nijire answered, still with downcast eyes. Need an umbrella? He asked while handing her his own, and seemingly uncaring of the rain drenching him completely in a matter of seconds. What about Dash? Klook. You. My helper Whitey is very resourceful. Izuku answered with a grin as a new umbrella appeared in the robot's hand to protect him. Thank you, the girl whispered, grateful, now at least able to walk away from under the tree. That robot, does it mean you are that chef people talk about? The one that challenged a private school for chefs? She asked. Yep, that's me, just finished the first round. Midoriya Izuku, nice to meet you. He answered. Hada Nijire, pleasure is mutual. Can I ask what happened? I don't want to talk about it, Nijire answered. Fair enough, I won't pry in somebody's personal matters. Gorororo. A loud thundering sound, similar to a sink getting unclogged, rumbled free from Nijire's stomach, and with her face turning bright red the young woman dearly wished for the earth to open under her feet and swallow her whole to hide her shame. On the contrary though I would be remiss if I ignore an empty stomach crying for help. Izuku added, smirking, and watching amused as Nijire's face did the impossible and turned redder still. Oh, God. The woman groaned in shame while burying her face in her hands. Come along. I am going to my restaurant to start preparations for the dinner rush. I will give you some appetizers to keep you occupied until proper dinner starts. Izuku said, walking forward and motioning her to follow him. I don't. Today's specialties are beef Wellington, takoyaki, katsudon and odin, and today's special desserts are angel fruit cake and sakura tort. Or else you can choose from the traditional menu. I added the dishes I prepared during my challenges in Inoshiki Academy as well. Izuku answered, mercilessly, without turning to look at her. Gaithai. What came from Nijire's stomach in answer could only be described as the whimper of a dying animal. Wait for me. She finally caved in and followed him to the bus stop. The ride towards Green Cloud Restaurant was silent, with Izuku and Whitey standing and clinging to the bus railing while Nijire sat nearby, the girl silently appreciating the chef not pushing further to know what was wrong with her. Last thing she felt she needed was somebody using her sadness as an opening to flirt with her. Green Cloud Restaurant. Once arrived, she watched as Izuku rapidly unlocked the door to let her in while he himself opened the drapes and turned on the lights. Take a table you like, I will be with you in a moment with a light snack. Soon it will be dinner time and I don't want to spoil your appetite. Thank you, Nijire answered, watching him disappear inside the kitchen while she sat at the table under one of the small trees at the very end of the restaurant, near the small window connecting the two rooms. You have a dog? She asked, trying to strike a conversation after a few minutes of awkward silence. You mean Blackie? Yes, he is my guard dog, a very amazing one. She heard him answer. I can tell he knows that, she answered, surprised to see a very human-like smirk appear on the dog's face at the praise. Both the girl and dog were resting under the same tree, and Nijire could guess why the animal didn't seem willing to leave once she sat at that table. For some reason sitting there was making her feel calm, relaxed and safe, in a sense. The restaurant, she surmised, was clearly the young man's pride and joy, Just by looking at how spotless it was and at the insane amount of dishes carved in the 4 tall wooden tablets by the door, she could feel the love the green-haired chef put in his job. The room possessed a very welcoming feeling, and with the ample windows showing the storm raging outside in all its merciless glory, Nijire felt even more glad she was safely inside, even if she also felt awkward at seeing the scarce people running by look at her in envy while they braved the freezing cold downpour. She was unaware of how long she just sat there in silence, but she ended up welcoming the privacy the young chef offered her with his silence. She just looked at the strange leaves of the plant above her while deep in thought, still unable to find an answer to her Mirio problem. I don't know how you are doing this, Plant-chan, but you are helping me think about him without crying again. But I still don't know what to do. Nijire muttered with a sigh of dismay, as if hoping for the plant to actually help her. If you are wondering, those plants are called soul-appeasing trees. My sponsor got them from a Chinese botanist. My guess is that the guy named them like this because he likes wuxia too much. Izuku explained once, finally surfacing from the kitchen to present her a small tray with steamed buns on it. So they really help people relax? Nijire asked with a tiny smile finally resurfacing. Pretty much, it's their quirk, shall we say. Here, Bowsy, steamed pork buns. Izuku proudly declared. Oh. Luckily I had made some in advance, so I only needed to cook them, please enjoy. He explained. In truth those were supposed to be his snack, but he decided to sacrifice them to help an empty stomach in need. Luckily he did not add the usual insane quantity of chili he normally added to his personal portions. Thank you. She answered, grateful. It's good. Then came a happy squeal as soon as she gave one a bite. The wrapping, while thick, was as soft and fluffy as a cloud. The pork filling instead was flavorful and with just the right amount of chili spices to tingle the nose and perfectly frame the meat flavor. Ho ho ho. I am glad you like them. Izuku answered, amused, and watched her wolf down the buns at insane speed. Wow. Somebody was hungry. He then said. Yeah. I missed lunch altogether since. Nijire had started answering with a wide smile while still eating, until she remembered why she was alone in that park crying her eyes out. She now just sat there looking at the last and half-eaten Bowsy still in her hand. You don't have to tell me anything. But you can stay here as much as you want, or at least until it stops raining. Izuku offered with a kind smile, and simply collected her empty dish to take it back to the kitchen. When the chef was halfway to the door, he heard her mutter something. Yes. I argued with my boyfriend. I am sure things will get back to normal soon. A moment of disagreement happens to everybody. He answered. Not this time, Nijire answered, sighing in dismay. We all think that, but you two will soon make peace, just you why dash. I am tired of waiting. Nijire roared while slamming both fists on the table. Eek! Troublemaker, cease making a scene or you will be punished. Whitey immediately came out of the kitchen as soon as he heard Izuku's surprised shriek. Ah! Oh, God, I am so sorry. I am just so tired. Nijire answered, hiding her face in her hands with a groan. I see. The chef answered once sent Whitey back. Sigh. Sorry, but wait is the last thing I want to hear now. Oh. It's just, I have been a good girlfriend, you know. I pretty much changed my lifestyle so that my schedule would fit with my boyfriend's. I was understanding. I accepted the numerous times he cancelled our dates because his mentor suggested a new special training regimen. I even accepted dates getting interrupted halfway because he got a call from his teacher insisting on revising his special quirk training. Believe me, I am the damn most accommodating girlfriend ever. Nijire said all in a single breath. I can tell. Izuku tried answering, understanding that he had just been elected as the girl's confidant even if he never proposed for the job. He just took a seat and readied himself for the long rant that was clearly coming his way. And a long rant it was once her floodgates went smashed open. Failed dates, cancelled or even forgotten dates/anniversaries, handmade lunches abandoned or eaten in a rush and phone calls cut abruptly, among other things. Whoever the girl's boyfriend was, he seemingly took his quirk training way too seriously, especially by hurrying to obey whenever either his teacher or his mentor called and abandoning Nijire with just a hurried, "Please wait a second," thrown her way. Even Izuku with his workaholic tendencies did leave himself enough free time to spend it with Momo, sure between her hero training and his job, and the system constantly breathing on his neck, both young man and woman had to fight hard to spend some time together, but they managed at least. It's always, wait. With him. Wait. 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 She hissed. Then came the last straw. Last night we were supposed to make love for the first time. Nijire finally said with a depressed tone. I don't think I need to hear this, Izuku tried saying. I had it all planned out, you know. I booked a nice and expensive love hotel, and I bought various boxes of condoms. Nijire kept saying, unperturbed. I really don't need to hear this. I had bought some kinky, see-through lingerie too. The very obscene and edible kind. I don't want to hear this. And scented candles. I put scented candles everywhere. I was fully ready to unleash my inner slut. Honest. I was ready to act like a bona fide whore. Nijire said with an angry tone. Why are you telling me this? Izuku said with a miserable groan. And then, as he was going to finally put it in, the phone rings, and instead of ignoring it and making true to his boyfriend's duties and pounding me into the mattress, he answered. He took the damn call. He answered and listened as his mentor asked him if they could talk and he damn left. He simply dressed back and left. He didn't even take off the condom. He left me pent up. And with just some cherry-flavored panties to eat alone to calm down. The girl yelled, obviously frustrated beyond belief. Hearing only silence coming in answer, she finally noticed Izuku leaning forward and burying his face in his hands, a poster picture of misery. Once again Nijire's face turned bright red in shame as it dawned on her how much she said. Please don't dash. I will keep this part a secret, don't worry. Just stop with the sordid details if we talk more, I am trying to erase from my memory that love hotel thing. Izuku cut her off, face bright red himself. Okay. She answered, meekly. Good, with your permission, I will finish dinner preparations, then we'll talk more if you want. Thank you, she answered. But to be honest, besides listening, I don't think I can help you. What you will do about your boyfriend depends on you only, I won't nor can suggest a thing. But I know that love is never a one-way road, one has to give other than take, so I am sure your boyfriend will soon return all your patience with interests, Izuku offered. Sigh. I hope so. Nijire answered with a hopeful sigh. Have faith, he answered as he got up. Falling again into silent contemplation, she watched as he rapidly prepared his restaurant for the so-called dinner rush, soon filling the restaurant in a mishmash of amazing scents of ingredients being worked on. And when the time came, she watched in wonder as he managed to follow every single table, delivering and recovering plates at high speed, all the while still managing to talk a bit more with her. The food was damn amazing too, and Nijire was unashamedly ordering dish after dish from the menu and piling up empty plates at a steady pace. She was more hungry than even she knew. The real drama for her though came when he brought the bill. It was then that Nijire noticed that in her haste to storm out of UA she had left her wallet behind. I will bring the money tomorrow morning, I swear. She cried out in horror. It's okay, don't worry. You will pay me tomorrow, I will just add your breakfast to the total. He answered with a gentle smile. You sure? Aren't we friends? I can do a favor to a friend whenever I want. The chef answered with a wink. Thank you. She answered. To be honest, after what she told him in blind anger, upgrading his rank to friend was the least she could do, especially since he didn't comment on her love hotel story. That was a small blessing. The next day. The following morning she was the very first customer entering as soon as he opened the restaurant doors. Good morning. How do you feel? He asked. A bit better than yesterday. Nijire answered. That's good. I knew you would bounce back, nothing can stop the amazing Nijire-chan. he said with a thumbs up. Ha ha ha. Amazing even? She asked with a touched expression. The very best. His smile was mischievous and friendly at the same time, a combination Nijire actually liked to see him with. I have some time before lessons, can we talk some more? Of course. I am always happy to talk with my friends. Izuku answered, leaving her table briefly to prepare her breakfast. Friends, why not? She muttered, watching him work tirelessly to serve his other customers and drawing a rather impressive picture of the boy in her head the more she studied him. Gentle. Honest. Hard-working. Modest. Well-mannered. Shy to praises. Aren't you a sweet guy? The young woman thought, and seeing his warm smile up close when he brought her a cup of coffee finally cleared her doubts. Yes, I think we can be very good friends, Iken. She said to herself with a wide, happy smile. Thus the Green Cloud restaurant gained another regular customer, and Izuku a new friend.